Kirchhoff-sponsored car collection Audi, the drivers are not all of the same pace. And to be fair, in the other car as well, number 88 car, which has just come into the pits, by the way, Tim Muller at the wheel of that car.
Well, they've got Pierre Caffer, so nobody's of his pace.
Nobody's going to touch him, obviously. But it does mean that the setup of the car becomes a little more difficult when you have drivers who go at different paces, because you need to optimise the setup of the car for the slowest of the drivers to get the best performance out of them. You know, it's a bit like having a slow wheel changer. If you've got a slow wheel change, you've got to make that one a little bit quicker, and then everything else goes quicker.
No point at all in having a car that Pierre Caffer or whoever your pro driver is, that's as edgy as you like and loose, and the pro driver, oh, I love this, we're backing it into the corners, and then your AM driver gets in and can't keep it on the track. And that's the compromise of endurance racing. The 88 car, the Caffer car as we've been calling it, the Jürgen Hering car, is down in the pit lane, that bright orange number 88. And Andrew has put his sunglasses on to tone down the glare of that car. It is pretty bright.
Yes, indeed. There was quite a lot of discussion going on before this car came in. I think it's the guy that normally races under the name of Takis who has got in it.
Yeah, Constantinius, right.
Takis Constantinius. He is in the car now, and I have to try and say how to put this. He doesn't look like a racing driver, shall we say that. He is not of the shape. The car has stalled, but now it's going again, so he's back in the race. But Car Collection having a very strong race, but not quite there, are they?
Not on the pace, Andrew, no, but consistency, can't fault them for it. 5th place as it came into the pits.
I can't remember them having an issue on that 88 car as well.
No. I mean, as I say, they've just been very consistent, and the quality of the AM class has been kind of moved up a stage by Herbert being present there, and of course with having Klaus Bachler at the wheel or in the driving lineup for the 93 AM class car, it had made it very difficult for Car Collection to keep pace with them. Constantino, though, is on his way then in the 88 car. Gustav Edelhoff still at the wheel of the 34 car. Both cars are in the top 7. And in fact, at the moment, as far as AM's concerned, they're occupying the remaining 2 podium places behind the Herbert car. So I think they can be quite happy with that.
And Andrew's just got Tim Muller out of that 88 car.
Tim, well done. How was that session for you?
Cool. I mean, driving in the morning, everybody starts to wake up, is cool. We had a good stint. It's running not too bad. So I think we are still on P2 in the class. Overall, I don't know. So our target is P1 in the class, and let's see. The Porsche is quite strong, I know, but it's still 2 hours to go, so we will see.
And of course, you have to fight against your team car. You fight against the other Car Collection.
No, there was no big fight. I had to fight against the Mercedes, who, I have to say, he was a bit unfair. He was knocking my car 3-4 times. But in the end, I could manage to pass.
Very good, thanks very much. Nice to speak to you, Tim. And that's another new one for me.
Yeah, far too many Mullers in this race, but Tim is the one who is in the 88 car, and just out of it, looking reasonably fresh, and good to hear him not complaining about the heat. The temperatures did drop down quite a lot overnight. It was probably less than the 22 I was suggesting. I was out in shirt sleeves and was thinking, yeah, maybe I should have had a fleece or something on. Most of the guys who are operating the computer systems on the pit wall had jackets on overnight, and the challenge now, as the temperatures start to rise in this final 2 hours, is to ensure that the temperatures and anything that caused a problem yesterday don't cause a problem today. And we already heard from the CP racing teams, from Charlie Putman, that he seems fairly confident that his car is going to perform all right today. Into the pits has come the Scuderia Praha Ferrari, a car that we would normally be talking about up at the front of the field, but various sensor issues. If Andrew might be able to ferret out a little bit more detail as to exactly what that was. My suggestion when I went down there was that it might be a gearbox temperature related issue. The car spent about 45 minutes or so in the pits overnight, and that's why it's lost so much ground. Jiri Pasaric has just brought the car in 10th place overall and is now some 30 laps or so behind the race leader.
Waiting for the car to come in now, the team just briefing Joseph Kral, who will be getting into the car, and then Joseph Kral will get out. But it's a disappointing run for this team, who's so dominated this European section of the Creventic series this year. It's been their best every year. I think we've seen them, racing here for 5 or 6 years now, haven't we? They've always been a class act from the Czech Republic, put together by Jiri Pasaric, and hopefully I might get a quick word with him when he gets out of the car, but currently we're still waiting. They've also got their own personal photographer here, an absolutely huge Czech gentleman who takes pictures of virtually everything that happens. Joseph Kral just there, bouncing up and down a bit, a truly professional driver. Had a lot of good runs, you remember, in GP3 years ago, so he's got a good single-seater background and always very cheerful, completely opposite to Matteo. He's always got a smile on his face as Joseph Kral, as the car comes to a halt. Again, right on its mark, the Czech mechanics, and I believe the whole squad is Czech, go to work, and now the rears go on, the rattle guns go off, and a tear strip comes off the windscreen, and already Joseph Kral is being strapped in, and Jiri Pasaric walks away, and off goes that Ferrari, which of course was troubled just after midnight. I'm going to go into the garage and see if I can get a bit more information on what the problem was, which cost them so much time.
Thanks, Andrew. Meanwhile, the other Ferrari, the Wochenspiegel sponsored car from Rinaldi Racing, is refueling as well at the moment, and they are that was Georg Weiss, who has just finished his stint now. As a result of that pit stop, of course, he's now lost the position to Gustav Edelhoff's car collection Audi, the number 34 blue and white car. Also in the pits at the moment is the 415, no, it's not 4, it is 415, isn't it? The psychedelic Porsche from the Orchid Racing team, which has had a fairly smooth run of it. That car coming in now, and it is leading the GT4 class by a country mile, but largely as a result of having had a trouble-free run. Refueling done a little bit quicker in the Porsche Cayman than in the Wochenspiegel car, so those two trundle down the pit lane to receive service from their respective teams, whilst Patrick Kujala continues to chase the Herbert Porsche, and he's now down to 55 seconds, the gap. And what was it? It was 2 hours ago when you came on air first, John. And I remember you and Shay were discussing, it was about 1 minute and 10 seconds at that point. They're on the same number of pit stops that they've taken since that time. And as I say, the Barwell car has brought the gap down by about 15 seconds in the last 2 hours.
Now, Andrew has found out what happened to the Ferrari, the Scuderia Praha Ferrari number 11, during the night.
Here is the unit which controls the turbocharger, basically. It's the electronic brain that controls the turbocharger. We've never had a problem with this before, of course, they always say this. But apparently this broke right here. That broke off, and that's what caused the problem. Yeah, it was on there. So that's what it was, and they say that they don't tell you too much at Praha. Well, they've brought the part out to show us what went wrong, so thumbs up to them.
That's because it was a warranty claim, I reckon they've showed. This part that should have been on there was one part, because that doesn't work on radio, of course. That was a connector that had broken off that car. See, complicated stuff, all of that. And I bet that took a very long time to
It was in a fiddly location.
Was it?
When I went into the garage and they were replacing it, it was one of those situations where you had 4 mechanics sitting on the engine bay trying to get at the right part, and the other 4 mechanics holding torches so they could see what to do.
So, TCE, Top Car, Baporo, Autorama and Holmgard. Those are your leading cars. 583 laps completed by Julian Applethorpe, who is again at the wheel of that Cupra from Baz Curtin. Alberto Vescovi is chasing him down. He's on 576, so that's the better part of 6-7 laps between them. He's got 4 laps on Autorama's Marlon Menden, who is in 3rd place. 131, 135 and 112. Cupra Volkswagen. The rest of the top 10 has the leader in SP3, the RTR Projects KTM Crossbow in 8th position. Thomas Miniberger is behind the wheel of that 224 Crossbow. 539 laps and back inside the top 10, that car. Vincent Rademacher, by the way, behind the wheel again of the AC Motorsport Audi. Expect to see that one going well. The A3 leader is the Hoffa Racing by Bonk Motorsport M240 Racing Cup BMW. Volker Piepmeier in the 869 car just goes underneath us now, leading their category. Further down the field, Perfection Racing trying to fight back. Synchro back on track after the gearbox change. Nordschleifer Racing's Peugeot's been rebuilt down the right-hand side. Munkhoff lapping again, but PR&V, Fun M Motorsport and Red Camel Jordan all gone. Is the GSR by Speed Factory car still going around? The 105? No, I didn't think so.
105, no. That was the car that was involved in the accident where he T-boned the 902 Porsche.
In fact, actually, the Munkhoff car's been in the pits for quite a long time now, about getting on for 3 hours, I would have thought, yeah. Because I mentioned that at the last update. That's TCE. 22 hours gone for the touring car endurance side of things. At the top of the shop is the number 91. And that now has Robert Renard in. Patrick Kujala for Barwell's in the fueling area at the moment. With 2 hours to go, that seems a bit early to me.
It is, but it's within 2 hours to the end of the race, so they could change the driver and get that driver through to the end.
Good point. So one more stop after this one is what they're thinking there. Herbert 91 from Barwell 77. It's been a good run for GPX Racing. I think they'll be slightly frustrated. They're about 4 laps away from 2nd place at the moment and 3 laps ahead of the leading AM car in 4th, which has Edward Lewis Browner for Herbert 93 car in it. Taki Constantinou is in the Car Collection Motorsport number 88 in 5th, and 6th Max Edelhoff has just taken out the Car Collection Motorsport. That's the top 3 in AM in 4th, 5th and 6th there, although laps between them. True Racing's 216 KTM is still leading, as it has been for such a long time. The SPX category, Sedi Sarmini behind the wheel of that car with a good lead on the field, and that's the only non-A6 car in the top 10. Just outside the top 10, Speed Lover still have a hold on the 991 class. Dominique Bastien in the number 978, the mainly white Porsche, leads from Team Webheads, trying to fight back, but laps between those cars, considerable numbers of laps between those cars, with the Porsche Lorient Racing 911, Pascal Guibon behind the wheel of the 911 car in 3rd position. GT4, the Orchid Racing Cayman, save for the incident when they were hit from behind and caused a puncture. They've had a couple of left rear punctures. That number 415, the psychedelic coloured car, has run really well in the GT4 class. It's the only one that has it of the GT4 entries, although the Zorg Rennsport car is trying to make up ground and still sits about 8.5 laps behind the leader. Again, that's only 16 minutes, so no chance for a rest for the Orchid Racing team, who are leading. Hoffa number 10, returned from the dead. Vortex running again, and the 20th position now, recovering KTM GTX number 217 after its issues overnight. Quite a lot of cars that have had problems between 21 and 28 positions in the GT area, including Bonk Racing's number 50, the Ligier back running round again now, leads SP4. Obviously it was the only car in the class there. caught Oyser turning laps again in the sonorous V8 Ford engine 717.
Don't think he is.
Oh, is he not? Right,
No,
okay.
The car's run out of bits, basically.
Ah, yes, you did say that. My apologies. But the Aston Martin is running round again, although Fricatelli, Akib Fischer and Orchid Racing Team are all gone. 2 hours to go, just under. In fact, the checkered flag at high noon here, Central European time. That's how it stands at the 24 Hours of Barcelona here for the final round of the European Championship. So, lovely morning again, temperate with a little bit of high cloud, just taking the edge off the morning sunshine. You can see the mountains in the background. They were obscured at times yesterday by very heavy and threatening cloud cover, but bar a couple of drops of rain for about 15 or 20 minutes. That's all we got in terms of weather interruptions. This battle between Herbeth Motorsport and Barwell has been fascinating and continues. Dennis Lind now in the Barwell car, Patrick Kujala out of the 77 machine, and welcome this morning to our run to the checkered flag. Shea Adams joined us in the pit lane.
Thank you, John. For Patrick, it's been a very long night. We can now say that you're not feeling in the best of conditions, and suffering for some heat stroke in the middle of the night meant that you had to actually put another driver back in the car. How are you feeling now that you're finally done with your driving duties?
It's been a tough 24 hours, I would say, but I feel better now. I've done what I could at the end, and yeah, very pleased with the team, the job they have done. The car has been mega. It's just unlucky that somehow I got sick and I didn't feel well, but now I'm much better.
How has the damage to the left rear of the car affected the handling of the Lamborghini?
No issues at all.
Good luck the rest of the way, and hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think from what I can gather, the big problem was getting the fuel on board the car. Sitting in the car after you've done an hour or an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of driving. When you've got the air flowing through the car, it's not too bad. But when you're sitting there, that was where I think the damage was done for Patrick there. But yeah, he's certainly not his usual chipper self, Patrick Kujala there. And as I say, it's now over to Dennis Lind to drive the car. And
so he'll be taking that to the flag then?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
One pit stop for fuel, and it won't be a full tank of fuel. It'll be as short a stop as they can get away with. And then, as I say, they'll need 2 pit stops at Herbert and a new driver at Herbert to take the car to the flag. So
now, what do you do then, Paul, strategically? Do you leave Renard in for a double stint and then put someone into the end, or do you take Renard out and put one driver into the end?
it's Herbert's choice, isn't it? I would take Renault out and put another driver in, because the final pit stop for Herbert is going to be a very short one.
But that means you'll have...
So you do effectively, rather than a double stint
Yes.
at the end, you do a, because Renault has fuel
And then you
enough.
don't change tyres on your last stop.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's absolute time, let's remind everybody. Fuel goes on in the fuel station and tyres goes on in front of the pit. So if you don't need to do tyres, then you just drive straight out the fuel station and back in and save yourself a minute or so.
Wave at your team as you drive past them.
Yeah, hello.
So Renault will be in round about 10 minutes time, I reckon, and as I say, that will be the time to change the driver to Sven Muller, if it were me, and then Sven will take it through to the flag with one final splash for fuel at the end, whilst Dennis Lind takes the Lamborghini as quick as he can. This battle between the two of them has kind of left everybody else a little bit breathless in the shade. Jean-Pierre Ballantini was in the number 24 GPX Porsche. That car has now been handed over to Stuart Hall. Stuart could take it to the checkered flag from where he is now, and he may well do so, but the GPX car will have to stop for fuel before the end of the race. It's fallen 6 laps behind the Barwell Lamborghini now, and so very much a 2-horse race at the front, Porsche versus Lamborghini, but then Stuart Hall is a lap ahead in third place of the other Herbert car, the AM class car, which Edward Lewis Browner is driving at the moment, and at the moment driving towards a championship as far as the GT AM drivers are concerned. Despite the disappointments for Scuderia Praha, they are still going to be able to take home, as champion of Europe, they will get the championship crown for that. Whatever happens this weekend, they are going to get the team's championship overall in the GTE division, and also the individual drivers' championships will also go to Scuderia Praha. As I say, they pretty much wrapped it up before we even got to this race weekend.
Fair Use says, reckon Porsche wins. 4 o'clock where he is, enjoying the race. That's how it keeps it going, doesn't it, when it's like this? Absolutely keeps you going. And we talked yesterday, Paul, about how close this race is in terms of the situation. Again, Herbert and Barwell not together at the moment, but will come back together in the last stint because of how things are going on. It's been barely much more than a minute for more than half the race.
Well, all of the race.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mark and I exchanged some stats, and for the whole of the race, the only time when they've been separated by more than a minute is when they're on slightly different points of their fuel strategy, which is the case now. And at the moment, the Barwell car is a lap behind.
But that's not the real situation, because Herbert haven't done the comparative pit stop to the one that Dennis Lind jumped in at 9 minutes ago.
Exactly, even though they've done the same number of pit stops overall. One of those pit stops for Herbert was kind of a false alarm. The car came into the pits but didn't actually take on any fuel. So in terms of fueling pit stops, then yes, Herbert still does owe us one. And tip of the hat as well to Creventic at this point, because the fuel compensation penalty, which caused some raised eyebrows back last year at COTA when it was first introduced.
Yeah, first mooted, yeah.
The idea to change it from being a penalty taken in the penalty box to being served as part of the refueling stop itself seems to have worked pretty well. And although we, amongst ourselves, suggested it was very difficult to police, in terms of the way the result is playing out, it has worked very well indeed.
As far as to who can drive the 91 car, Robert Renard at the moment has done an hour. How much driving time has he got left? If he was to allow, it's slightly different regulations for the pros, of course.
Yes,
pro class cars.
In terms of his driving time in the race, he can drive to the end of the race. Unfortunately, he can't, because he's limited to doing 2 hours in a single stint, and that's going to end up elapsing before the end of the stint that he's
And
on
is there anyone else who's tight on time, therefore they couldn't use? So what I'm saying is, do they have any restrictions on whether they can put a faster driver in for the last couple of hours?
Exactly. It should be Sven Muller getting into the car. 2 pro drivers at the wheel of the Herbert Porsche, and as far as I reckon when I did the calculation earlier on, they're both well within. Yes, Robert Renau has driven the car for 5. Just need to multiply that up to get to the end of the race. It's tight, but Sven Muller should be able to get there to get it to the end of the race.
Right. How tight?
Yeah, right.
Depends when they do the pit stop with Robert Renauer, I suppose.
Well, no, because they're both pro drivers, so they both...
that adds up to the same amount of time.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter which one of them are doing it. So the question that Paul is going to answer here is whether we need to get a non-pro into that car for any of the final couple of hours of the race. So 1 hour and 42.5 minutes is what they have. Well, here's a key moment then, as Robert Renauer in the leading car is into the fuel station. The number 91 crossword and maroon car sits at pump number 4, just in behind the number 102 Sonac sponsored Golf. And Paul says
you're absolutely right, they can't afford to put Sven Muller. I thought they could afford to put Sven Muller in the car, but in fact they can't, because they are both pro drivers. They're going to have to go to Ralph Bone, and all of a sudden, this guy who suggested that it was Advantage Porsche, it might end up being Advantage Barwell here, because subject to the fact that I might have made a mistake. I don't think I have.
we can't even countenance that at this stage, Paul.
Remember, I've been up all night. What we need, of course, is Shea Adams to tell us who is actually getting ready, because I think it's going to have to be Ralph Bone getting into the car to finish the race, in which case you don't necessarily want to have a driver change at this point. You want
Correct.
to leave Robert Renauer in to the end of his 2-hour maximum driving time limit.
Which is an hour away.
May well be that there is
I think
no driver change. There is a driver standing by at Herbert.
And a new set of tyres
in any case, because...
so if only I'd brought my binoculars, I could have told you who that was. Looks like Sven.
Yes.
The multicoloured sparkly helmet and the Porsche Works overalls. That is Sven. So does that mean single stint and then someone else to the end? That's what we're seeing here. Might need a little bit of non-pro time here. Paul's doing some more rough calculations.
They're going to be too far over, I think. Yes, it's too far over the... Let's not say anything just yet, but they are going to go about 15 to 20 minutes over the 12-hour maximum driving time for a pro squad. I just double-checked that over here.
Well, Shea Adam is just arriving at that pit, and that is Sven, isn't it, Shea, who's standing by?
No doubt. That is Sven Muller taking over the number 91. A question for Paul while this pit stop is going on. He can calculate it. How far over is Barwell on their pro time? Because I feel like Kujala and, of course, Dennis Lind have driven a lot of time in that car, but the pit stop going perfectly so far. They added some liquid to the back of the car. Wow. Perfect stop in terms of the driver change getting finished and the tires being done. That was almost simultaneous.
Just waiting for the Barwell car to come through.
And they're not going to take the lead.
No, they're not.
That pit stop. They're going to have to do it on the final pit stop if they're going to do it. The answer to the question that Shea posed is that Barwell aren't over at all, because Patrick Kiala is not a pro driver.
Correct.
He is a semi-pro, and even though Barwell believe he is just as quick as Dennis Lind, he is free, therefore, of driving restrictions. Dennis Lind is the only driver who has the 12-hour limit on him.
Yes, so because it's not about a single driver, it's about the number of hours that the pro ranked drivers do.
Correct.
And whether in the pro car that's 3 of them or 1 of them. You still have to have 1 arm even in a pro car. Then that is the number that they are working to. So this puts a bit of a different complexion on. I'm leader in the fuel stop at the moment. Edward Lewis Browner for Herbert Motorsports. They've got a couple of laps on Taki Constantiniu in the car collection number 88 Audi. That's a bright orange car. So that's a battle that we need to keep an eye on as well, because that one's by no means over. So a little bit of a different complexion on the lead then at 53 seconds when Dennis Lind came across the line. That's not a true reflection because the Sven Muller car was in the pit lane at that point. So we'll see them when they come round this time. Sven coming round to complete his out lap with 1 hour and 38 minutes still to go. And all of a sudden, what we thought was going to be close is perhaps even closer. Yeah, nowhere near a minute because, of course, they still had the tyre stop to do. And Dennis Lind here will see the back of the leader as he comes out of the final corner and onto the long main straight underneath our commentary position. There goes the leader now, and there goes the bright yellow and black number 77, and the gap at the line is 4 seconds. 4 seconds after 22 and a half hours of racing, 22 hours and 40 minutes. Only 2 cars on the lead lap. And they've been locked together since the red lights went off at midday yesterday.
It's, I mean, perfect illustration of how balance of performance can work without having to introduce anything more complicated. And a pendulum that swings, you know, is it going this way, is it going the other way? Don't forget, of course, that the nature of this circuit is that if you push too hard early on in the stint, you end up wearing the tyres at the end of the stint.
Yeah.
And so Sven Muller is going to be tempted to push on as hard as he can to maintain his advantage over Dennis Lind. Of course, the tyres are up to temperature already. He's in the groove. He knows where the good line is, and will have a feeling for the traffic as well. And Sven Muller's just going to take it a little bit easy in these first couple of laps in order to be able to make the tyres last to the end of his stint, and possibly he may be thinking to the end of this lap, for the end of the race.
Yes, good point. Herbert busy with their second car, the ARM leader, and Edward Lewis Browner stretches his back as he gets out. The tyres are done, just waiting to finish bolting the new driver in. And down in gear, fire it up, and fire it up. Come on, that's not started. Now it has, and now it rolls away. But that seemed a little bit tardy. And they've got a bit of time, but not a huge amount of time between themselves and the car collection machine. That's one we're going to have to keep an eye on as well and start looking at some back timing for. Taki Constantiniu must be coming to the... Well, he's got about 15 minutes left in this stint, maybe a little bit more. No, he's only been in half an hour, actually. And it's Jerko Dremiš who's got in to the 93 Herbert car. Now, Shea Adam is down at Herbert trying to get a little bit of information about where their plans are for the drivers. But we're pretty certain here now that Sven Muller cannot drive to the end of the race. 4.8 seconds the lead now, Paul.
Correct, yes. It's not that he can't, it's just that the regulations say that he'll have gone over the limit if he does.
And what sanction is that?
It will be a... Go back to the regulations to see what happens if they offend, and that's in a different section, penalties, I'm afraid.
Right, don't worry.
It'll take me ages to get to that section.
As he flicks through actual pages of regulations here. I do like a good printed set of regulations. At the moment, the major worry for Sven Muller is that Dennis Lind is only 5 seconds behind him, although Sven took about a second out of him last time around. Let's have a chat with Robert Renauer, who might be able to throw some light on this. Shea Adam, it's a very complicated set of calculations for Herbert.
It really is, and it's a good thing that Robert is also a team principal here. So you got out of the car, looked at the screens. We think that between you and Sven, you'll go over the pro time, but is Sven going to stay in the car until the end of the race?
I don't think that we have a pro time, really a pro time in pro class. I mean, it's for each driver, so I don't see a problem in this case.
Isn't it a maximum of 12 hours for the pro drivers?
Yeah, really? And then we have to change for the last stint.
It's just what Paul Treswell's been saying up in the booth. But talking about the driving, how was it for your stint? Much cooler out there.
It was really challenging because we are always really, the gap to the Lamborghini was always very tight. So also now for the rest 1.5 hours, it's only 4 seconds. So really good race for the complete 23 hours so far. And we had a lot of fun, especially during the night. So yeah, hopefully we can continue like that.
It's been an extraordinary 24-hour race, the battling just never letting up. Have you ever been involved in a race like that before?
For sure in Creventic, no. This is the most challenging race we ever had here.
Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so say all of us there.
What was nicest about that was when Shea posed the question, Robert Renauer gave an honest answer, but he had a smile on his face as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't the, oh, this was the hardest race I've ever had, oh dear. He had a smile on his face as if he enjoyed it.
We've got a problem out in the circuit. This is the absolute nightmare race for the 188 AC car. It's off, it's lost a wheel at the left front. Vincent Rademacher has not had the race he was looking forward to. Front runners and championship contending AC Motorsport. They were 8th in class here, having had a good season so far, but this has not been their weekend.
Has it not, indeed? I mean, great efforts by the rest of the drivers, not having Stefan Perrin to draw upon. Mathieu Detry,
who I think has been the fastest guy in the car,
absolutely.
actually.
Yeah, no, he's a real star and could well get another drive somewhere else because he is a driver with a great future ahead of him. James Kay, Vincent Rademacher. James Kay looking for a championship to win that he could have got, at least he was looking to get as he came into this race, but it's been, as you say, John, really just going from bad to worse, and I told you, the disappointment that Vincent Rademacher felt even before he got out there for this stint, and I don't see how that car is going to be removed without a flatbed lift. They're not going to be able to drag it anywhere with only 3 wheels on it.
The wheel has come completely adrift at the left front, and I'm trying to see if the studs are there. I don't think they are. So either they've sheared or the hub has failed. Inevitably, this has got to be a code 60. It is a code 60 with an hour and 30 minutes to go on the nosy. We're live at trackside in sound and vision, audio on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited Network channels. Coming up later on today from Silverstone at RS3. Once we're done, you can switch over to RS3 for the 4 hours of Silverstone, the first round of the 2019-2020 FIA-WAC Championship.
Yes, 7 seconds is the gap between the leaders as we've gone into this code 60. So wasn't it yesterday you told us to write down 7 seconds?
Yeah, still 7 seconds.
Still 7 seconds. And it was that gap that was 7 seconds that you wanted us to write down, wasn't it, John?
Yes, it was.
Quite. So we'll just want to check how the code 60 works because the Herbert car has offended. It has sped in the pit lane. Up in one of the earlier code, sped under the code 60 in one of the other code 60s, and they were penalised for it. The dice has been thrown once again because Sven Muller has brought the Herbert Porsche into the pits, and therefore Dennis Lind has taken the Barwell Lamborghini. He's not come into the pits, he's stayed out there. So Dennis Lind has taken the Barwell Lamborghini into the lead of the race now. He's completed 646 laps, whilst the fuel still goes in to Sven Muller's car. They did wait there 7 seconds before they started putting the fuel in, but they're now having a problem. They've got to push the car back and forth. Why are they having to push it back and forth? Because I think they've got enough lock on the car to be able to get it away from that position. I think it's because they don't want to be accused of blocking
Good point.
the Hakro BMW.
Make
the
sure
car
it was
which is
in
behind
the
it.
in the marked lines, I think.
Yes, that was the issue that we were talking about yesterday when, although the hoses seemed long enough, there were opportunities to park, and they were having to just make sure that the car was on its marks. Now it is on its marks. The fuel has gone in. The front wing is given a tap. Sven Muller then trundles out of the refueling area and down towards. Is he going to stop for further service? Yes, he is.
I think they're going to get him out. They're going to get him out, Paul. It's a driver change. It's a driver change down at Herbert and the number 91 car. The 911 is in as well, Porsche Lorient Racing. That car running with Pascal Guibon in third position in the 991 category. Sven Muller out.
It can't be Robert Renauer getting in because he hasn't had sufficient rest time. So it either has to be Ralph Bone or Daniel Alleman getting in.
My money's on Bone.
Yes.
My money's on Bone here to take this car, and he will be able to take this car to the end. I just wonder if the question that Shea asked there had sparked the guys going to look at the regulations. No, and then they've taken advantage of the code 60.
Even though Shea gave Robert Renauer the credit of being team manager, there will be somebody else whose responsibility it is. I mean, you can't ask the team manager to do some driving and know every word of the regulations. I think I don't think Robert has always been a pro. I think that's been part of the issue. He's been a semi-pro in the past.
That's a very good point. You're right.
And he may well be thinking that he's a semi-pro still. But you know, these are only racing drivers, so you know they will know.
The 188 car, by the way, in addition to having broken front suspension and the front wheel off, somebody's absolutely nailed that car in the driver's door. So no wonder Rademacher got out a bit gingerly. There's I
wonder if that's not the wheel off.
Yeah, well, exactly. So the small window at the back behind the rear doors is smashed as well. That's been a big impact for the 188. The door bars and the safety cell absolutely have done their job. Rademacher out and has been given a bottle of water by one of our hard-working marshals here. And whilst we're under code 60, thank you to all the marshals here in Spain and all around the world on this busy motorsport weekend. We can't go motor racing without you, all of our volunteers. It doesn't really matter whether you're parking cars or directing traffic. And there've been plenty of people doing that here, or indeed on post. We always remind ourselves on this tragic weekend how dangerous motorsport can be. And the marshals put themselves in the firing line as well. So we thank them all around the UK and the world, and here in Spain too. Vincent Rademacher, hands on hips, ruefully looking at the 188, for whom this has not been a banner race. Had a good year this year, as we mentioned. All of their bad race luck seems to have come at one time. At RSL_studio, as we head into the last 90 minutes, we're inside that now. What a race this has been. Under code 60, there's a minute and 10 seconds between the two leaders, but of course that's not the real picture because they're moving slowly at the moment. But Dennis Lind leads for Barwell Motorsport from Herbert in second. The 91 car confirmed with Ralph Bourne, who can take that car to the end now. 28 minutes for Dennis Lind. Ooh, hang on a second. Lind can't go to the end. He's been in 28 minutes and we've got 1 hour 25 to go. He can, because he'll have to pit again. In fact, he's come into the pits now. He's into the pits and they are taking fuel at the last area. This is, if they were tight on driver time, come in and take fuel, because the time in the pit lane, of course, doesn't count for his 2 hours.
Correct, and in any case, they need to get fuel to get them to the end of the race.
This will get half a tank, so this will push him much closer to the end of the race.
It will, and the issue is that it was a fairly obvious this is going to be a slightly longer code 60 because of the need to hoist the car onto the back of the flatbed. therefore it makes sense to stay out a little bit longer through the Code 60, not come in right at the beginning of it, but to stay a little bit longer, which is what Barwell has done, but only 1 lap longer, which is what the advantages they now have over Herbert.
And they have filled, and side-by-side getaway with the number 88 Taki Constantiniu car collection motorsport car. They're in a battle with Herbert as well, but for the A6 arm, Shea Adam is down at Barwell. Presumably they'll just be waving him by whilst they're having their early morning coffee and sending him back out.
Well, that's what I thought they were going to do. That's why I kept walking down the pit lane a little bit. But no, they've just scrambled out of the garage. They've got tires laid out. And yes, Lind is coming into his box. Let's see if the driver door even opens. No, it doesn't. This crew has been remarkable with their tire changes. They have been so fast. They are changing the right sides, done with that. Changing the left sides, done with that. Car comes off the air jack now, and Lind is clear to leave. That was a wonderful pit stop in terms of tire change for the Barwell crew. Guys, give yourself a pat on the back.
And just remind everybody, while Shea was mentioning that, that's 2 guys only with guns running around the car. That's not the 22 people of Formula 1 who change 4 tyres, albeit in a couple of seconds. That's impressive. I like that call, Paul. That puts the best Hankook rubber on. The very worst it can be is 1 hour and 23 minutes old by the time he gets to the end, and that probably means that they can splash now with about 20 minutes to go and not have to take tyres to get Dennis to the end of the race.
Yes, that's right. The as I say, the difficulty here calculating it is that was only a 48 litre fill for the Barwell team, as it was as well for Herbert. 45 litres for Herbert, 48 litres for Barwell. And they will have gone as close as they can to the limit of that as well to try and get as much of the fuel in as they can, but it won't be enough to get the car through to the checkered flag. They will need another stop before the end of the race. And as I say, for Dennis Lind, that extra stop will give him the opportunity that he needs to not exceed the 2-hour drive time limit. One other class-leading car, race-leading car, because we've got Antti Buuri, who's just brought the race-leading Bascoot and Cupra into the pit lane. 6 laps is the advantage that car has on the rest of the field. So Bascoot right up at the far end of the pit lane. So Antti Buuri will be taking the car all the way up to the very end of the pit lane. And also in is the Synchro Motorsport Honda, still placed second in the A3 class. And so many laps behind that they're not going to be able to get any further up the field than that. Some 60 or so laps behind the 869, the Hakro-sponsored BMW from Bonk Motorsport. I love the CP Racing mechanics who have large 85s written in a dartboard style on their overalls, bright red and yellow. None of the other team wear red and yellow, but of course it makes them much easier to pick out when you're. There was some of the teams were actually had fluorescent numbers on their chests during the night, again to help the drivers spot who the team is and whereabouts they need to go to get their fuel. Yeah,
85 team, the CP Racing AMG, getting its fuel at the moment. The 85's in very American-style roundels on the team uniforms, or perhaps a speed limit sign, if you will.
I was going to say the way that numbers used to be on the sides of racing cars when
exactly
you and I started watching motor racing, not just the American style, but that's the way that all numbers used to be on the sides of racing cars. Now there are sponsors to be considered that have their own style that they wish to enforce.
Let's go to Shea while we've got a moment. The TCE race leader has just been through the pit lane, Shea, but didn't stop at his pits.
No, he didn't, which is really unfortunate because I want to demonstrate something when it's actually going on. Their pit board for where the car comes to a stop has fans built into it, but they're not built in at ground level. It's for when the car comes up on the air jacks, then the fans blow straight into the radiator and help cool down the car. Really ingenious system. That's not why the car has a 4-lap advantage, but it's not why the car has a 4-lap advantage.
As Roger Penske says, it's always the little things, isn't it? And Penske was one of the first people I saw who had built little stands to put tyres in, so that the tyres didn't roll away on pit lanes that perhaps weren't quite straight, and you could stand it and set everything up without somebody standing with a hand on the tyres, or having to lie the tyres down and then have one of the pit crew pick it up and push it on. It was already standing on its tread and it would go straight on. That's the little attention to detail that just makes you think, yeah.
The key thing with that pit board is the fact it said Baz Cooten over the top of it, and that tells you all you need to know. There's not
well, that's the advantage right there.
Yeah.
If there's an advantage. We've gone back to green with an hour and 18 to go. Good morning if you're just joining us. I know many people turning up at Silverstone for the WEC, the 4 hours of Silverstone, first ever WEC 4-hour race at Silverstone to start the 1920 season. You've got plenty of time before that kicks off, and I know there's a few people tuning in on RS1 and watching the video as well. Our coverage on 87.7 FM at Silverstone this weekend, and of course on RS3 around the world, with Johnny Palmer will be rubbing on the halibut oil at the moment and lying in a darkened room eating grapes that have been peeled specially for him.
He won't even be up yet.
No, he was on time this morning. Yeah, I've been told. That's all to come, but after the end of this race, so you don't need to miss any of the action here. And my goodness, what action it is. 2.1 seconds between Dennis Lind and Herbeth Motorsports' Ralph Bourne. That's for the lead of the race, with 23 hours and 40 minutes, 22 hours and 40 minutes having elapsed. This is an extraordinary 24-hour race. The Hankook 24-hour series in Europe coming to a conclusion, and we'll be handing out some championship silverware at the end of this. Not the end of the season for Creventic, and the Hankook 24 hours will be out in Quarter in November. But before that, in Europe, the first ever endurance race at Spa for TCR cars only. 500 laps of the 7.004 Spa-Francorchamps circuit. 3rd to the 6th of October, and that's live here as well, of course. Looking forward to that one. We've got very, very interesting transport to get us out there. I can't wait to do the real world road test. A car with a motive power unit that I've never driven before is all I'm going to say. Something I believe that is unique in automotive technology. I'll get that confirmed and tell you more about it when we get closer to
As long as it's
October.
not a motorbike and you've put me on the sidecar.
I'd put you on the back of them. I don't think there'd be quite enough room on, even on with all my panniers on the mighty K1600. But
So it is a car, not a motorbike.
it has 4 wheels. It's nothing to do with the layout of the car. It's all to do with the power unit, the internal combustion engine. It's something that is brand new, and I'm very anxious to try it because I like innovation and I like companies that do that. So we'll let you know about that as we get closer to the time. That's for the Spa 500 later on. At RSL_studio. If you want to get in touch with us. Now, let's see.
Tom Dillman back at the wheel of the 902. Talking about drivers who have gone up to their driving limit, Tom Dillman has spent an awful lot of time behind the wheel of the team Webhead's Porsche.
12 laps off the leading class.
Yes, it's not the lead that they're going to get. I think it's more the worry about whether they're going to be caught by the second place car. They have a 3-lap advantage over the second place car, the Porsche Lorient car. So yes, it's close, but not as close as it is in the overall for the 991 class. TCR, as I say, has become very much a one-horse race. Anti-Bury, as Shay told us, has stayed behind the wheel of the Baz Cooten, the top car sport with Baz Cooten Racing Cupra. I've talked about boring white Porsches before. I don't talk about them anymore. I talk about boring white Cupras because the Batpro car is a rather uninspiring livery when you compare it to some of the cars out there. A very gentle kind of blue and white livery on the Ban Pro car.
They make up for it with great driver names, though, at the moment.
Yes.
Marcello Raffaele Ciarocci.
You have to do it with an Argentinian accent.
I'm not sure there is such a thing as an Argentinian.
But anyway, yes, but Marcello does come from Argentina and is currently second in the TCR class and third in the TCR class. So it's a Cupra 1-2, and then third in the TCR class is the Autorama Volkswagen, which I do believe is on the cusp of the championship as far as the TCE teams are concerned. Yes, they are, and as well with the drivers as far as TCE is concerned. Yes, Fabian Dantz, the say lead driver. It's not necessarily the lead driver in that car, but the first name driver in that car. Fabian Dantz is at the moment on schedule to take the Drivers' Championship, another driver who has a 0 score to drop, and that's what's going to lose Dan Wheeler and Alan James the championship, because they have a score from Mugello which they have to drop, whereas Fabian Dantz has a 0 score that he can drop, so that's why he's in a position to take the overall Drivers' Championship. So it's going to be a very happy Autorama team if they can maintain that third position in the TCR class which they have at the moment.
The 188 car from AC is back in the pits, looking a bit shit. Adam pre-loved there. If they're going to put that one on Auto Trader, they need to take the picture from the right-hand side, because the left-hand side is not as it came out of Seat Sport.
But I pre-loved it.
Yes.
Adam pre-loved. Yeah, not so good from the left-hand side. The hub is very short on this car, so can't actually tell if it's sheared off on the left front or if that's just the design. But the wheel definitely looking a bit wonky. Actually, I should say the wheel well, because there is no wheel left on this car. But from Joe Bradley's school of detectiveness, I would say that the big dent in the left-hand door had more to do with the reason that this car went off than any sort of wheel coming off damage.
415 and the 451. We're looking at that category there. Massimo Salamanca in GT4. Right turn lever reckons by dint of neither the 415 or the 451 having broken down. The number 50 can't be better than third in class, and now can't overtake the Ferrari in the GT overall standings anymore. So that's one of the championships that will be handed out later on. The 217 running again for KTM after losing some time overnight, but I think True Racing and KTM, everybody involved with that new GTX project, Paul, have got a lot to be excited and proud about here. I mean, first of all, the cars themselves have performed very well indeed in terms of their performance, the speed, the reliability for a pretty new car. I know the underpinnings they've used before, but it's new engine management system, and certainly the reaction that it's got from our listeners and viewers and people here at the track has been, I think, beyond expectations.
Absolutely. Kind of echoing the discussion you were having earlier on about innovation. Even if it uses an ordinary turbocharged 5-cylinder engine, if there is such a thing, I mean, there is such a thing as that engine, sorry, I just meant, is it ordinary? No, it's not ordinary, but you know what I mean. It is an innovative looking car, and it certainly is the sort of car that captures people's imagination. It's in the race in its in a special class. SPX is for sports which are experimental, and it fits exactly into its own little class, although there's other experimental cars out there. The KTM GTX very much the class of the field as far as performance is concerned, and it's doing setting a very good advertising for itself, with not really any significant problem. I mean, the car that had the engine change, as I said earlier on, okay, yes, it did have an engine change, but only because some gravel got onto a belt. That pulled the belt off. the lack of the belt then led to the engine overheating, and so they had to replace it. But they had the engine there. It was done with minimum fuss in less than an hour and a half, and they were then straight back out again. And the 217 car, which is the car that had that problem, has been running just as quickly as it was with the old engine with its new engine.
Yeah, yeah. I hope we do see some more of these cars. The suggestion is that there's a road car coming based on this GTX racing concept to take KTM into more car, as Ryan McLeod was talking about the business model for.
Yes, Hans Reiter had to search for some very quick answers.
He did,
when,
but
he was posed the question.
But he was good, and you know, all the guys from KTM who are part of the driving talent, Laura Kramer as well, who works in marketing for KTM and has driven that car immaculately, by the way. We've got, I know it's very fashionable at the moment to talk about women drivers because of segregated series. Well, endurance racing has always had women drivers in it, and we've got some really competent drivers here this weekend who have always competed on equal terms.
And on the subject of women in motorsport, of course, don't forget Naomi Schiff, who's team manager
Absolutely
of that
correct.
team. You know, it's not just Laura Kryhammer doing the driving bit, but Naomi is literally doing the masterminding of it. She may not be making every decision, but she's delegating every decision, and is in, as I say, the responsible position of team manager for the team. And she's not alone, and nor is Laura Kryhammer in being a ladies driver out there. There is quite a lot of them, and you were talking earlier on as well, John, about the marshals. We've got quite a few lady marshals as well, so women in motorsport, there are a lot of them, and why should we segregate?
Well, that's part of a bigger argument. I had a long chat with Lynn St James last weekend, funny enough, about this, who she admitted to me was very sceptical about the W Series, but decided that she would be a part of it, if only to make sure that there was a strong female involved and not the selection process wasn't being done by white middle class and upper class men, which seemed reasonable to me. But I've kind of got mixed feelings about it. There'll undoubtedly be people who will point at Alice Powell. By the way, Torsten Kratz just done that car's fastest lap in the 4:51 Zorg Rennsport BMW. Alice Powell back in the racing scene and picked up by MSR to go and sub for Christina Nielsen. But she did have the test long before she won the race at Brands Hatch. But I'm fairly certain that the fact she was back in racing played a part in her getting that. So you can argue there straight away that maybe it's done something. Whether it'll do its avowed intent, I'm not sure. But that's not for me to judge. All I can talk about is what we've seen in the past. And as Paul rightly says, endurance motorsport and other forms of motorsport, drag racing, for example, always had a lot of very successful women, from Shirley Muldowney to John Force's daughters, of course, Courtney and Brittany, and many others, including on two wheels in drag racing. Endurance motorsport rallying plenty of strong women, not just behind the wheel, but also strong female role models, including in our business, funny enough.
Strangely, isn't it? Has anyone mentioned that the team manager of the car 50 has been asked to report to race control? I just wonder whether it's anything to do with the dent in Vincent Rademacher's door that message has come up. It kind of came up at roughly the same time, but we've done a bit of such speculation before.
Shea Adam has news on the number 50.
Nope, it's been in the garage since I came back into the pit lane at about 9:30 was when I did my first walk up and down, and this beautiful red and black BMW has been sitting with the headlights turned on, the engine cover up, a computer plugged in, and two mechanics working on it for about the last hour and a half.
It did go out on the circuit, because it's actually only been in this time for 16 minutes.
Oh.
So I think it might have sneaked out when Shea wasn't looking and then come back in again.
We'll stay in the pit lane until Shea's walked past, then we'll nip out, and then if we have an accident, we can park it up quickly and nobody will know we've been out.
Exactly so. 50 came into the pits, yes, whilst the code 60 was in place. So I think there might be a bit of cause and effect there. So Thomas Jaeger, it was at the wheel of the car when it came in. Now Thomas is no slouch. The car, having been delayed earlier in the race, is third in GT4. But whether there is any Audi door shapes embedded in any part of that car, we don't know. So might just need a little bit of extra nosing around there, Shea, I think. Other cars.
Go on, Shea.
This is really hard. What damage is new and what's old, because it was in the lap 1 incident, but the nose looks about the same as when I left it. It hides damage well, also it's hard to say.
Okay, so I think we might have to wait until further messages arrive on our screen before we can plant any more blame there. Other cars that are in the pits at the moment, the 912 Lorient Racing Porsche is a car that's been there for some time. That's the one which Antoine Etienne was involved in an incident yesterday evening. And I think that's probably been in the pits for long enough that we might be regarding that Lorient car as a retirement. 912 is not far away, actually, from where Shea is anyway, so she might be able to give us an indication as to whether or not the 912 might be seen again before the end of the race, which is pretty much just an hour away now, coming up to just gone 3 minutes to 10. Sorry, 3 minutes to 11, with the race finishing at midday.
High noon, baby. That's the big one. That's the big shootout. And it's now under 10 seconds.
But it's gone up to over 7. It was at 7 seconds for so long.
Dennis Lynn doing his job. Ralph Bourne doing his job. This could come down yet to the pit stops, Paul.
Final pit stop. Well, it will come down to the final pit stop. Who chooses to change tyres and how much fuel has to go in. And remember, every single pit stop for the Porsche, because of the way the rules work, has to have 7 seconds of sitting in front of the fuel pump with nothing going on. And we've got a slow car on the circuit. It's the 978 Porsche, which is the speed lover car with a puncture. Guess which corner that puncture?
That'll be left rear.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So the speed lover Porsche, this is the car that leads in the 991 class. So Richard Verbourg, the leading 991 class car, a puncture, and he's bringing it very slowly back to the pit lane. And Tom Dillman in the Team Webbshead's Porsche is, how far is he behind? Laps and laps. I'm going to have to work that one out on this screen. Tom Dillman is 12 laps back in the 991 class, so that is an awful lot of time to get back.
Yeah, definitely left rear on the Porsche number 978. And I'll tell you what, the Joseph Kral driven Bohemia Energy car got pretty close to that as he swung out of turn 5 and wasn't taking notice of the waved yellow flags. Huge amount of debris and tyre pickup on that white Porsche. It's very, very noticeable on the speed lover car. Those cars, of course, having probably to go offline more than others, but even so, I think he needs to slow down a little bit there.
Absolutely, because with a 12-lap gap, 12-lap cushion to the next car back, he can afford to go slowly and bring it back very. I mean, he probably thinks he is going very, very slowly, but it's going to be a very difficult task. Richard Verbourg in the speed lover car then, bringing the car as gently as he can back home, but as John was saying, leaving quite a bit of debris along the way. It's a car that's shared with Nigel Farmer, Dominic Bastien and Kion Yam Lim.
I seem to remember it was Stuart Hall a few years ago in the booth with us, Paul, when we were doing the Creventic 24 hours at Silverstone, who was sitting in, and we were talking about somebody with a puncture bringing the car in. And, you know, we asked him, what do you need to do and how slow do you need to go? He said, it doesn't matter how slow you think you're going, it's always too fast.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really good answer from Stuart. You get some good, honest answers from a very competitive and competent driver and a very good fast bowler as well.
Yes, which helps with the competitiveness.
Oh, yes, it absolutely does. Paul, we are inside the last hour. Let's look at how they stand as we head into the last 60 minutes of racing. It is Barwell Motorsport by 8.3 seconds. Dennis Lind versus Ralph Bourne to the end of the race. One pit stop for each of the 77 Lamborghini and the 91 Porsche at the head of the field. In third, Stuart Hawley's behind the wheel, bowling around the wicket from the pavilion end in the GPX Porsche GT3. That is third in A6 Pro, although some 6 laps away from the leading pair. A6 Arm is led by Klaus Bachler, who's driving the Herbert Motorsport number 93 car. He's got just on, not quite a lap, has he? He's got a couple of sectors between himself and Jürgen Hering, and Max Edelhoff is a couple of laps further back there. So 93, 88 and 34, still in a cracking scrap for A6 Am podium spots. Further down the top 10, the SPX leader has got Laura Kreheimer back behind the wheel of that car. She started the car and she can go to the end of the race. She put in a brilliant first stint to lead at the end of her stint, and that car, I think, has not been headed since. Outside the top 10, Speed Lover 991 Cup class leader is now in the pits with Richard Verberg. That's the car with the puncture. But they've got plenty of gap back to Team Webb heads with Tom Dillman in second place. Tom will be getting the hurry up just in case they can push them into some kind of mistake. Orchid Racing Team Porsche, 16th position in GT and leading GT4, but Zorg Rennsport sort of keeping them honest at the moment, sitting around about 9 laps. That's what, 18 minutes behind them. Then the rest of the SPX field make up the top 20. 50 Hoffer back in the pit lane. Nordschleifer Racing's JS2. Ligier's been a fan favourite too. Everyone else struggling and in the pits for some time at the bottom end of the GT field rather. In the TCE, Touring Car Endurance part of our race, the last round of the European Championship. Top Car Sport with Baz Cooten, Antti Burri leading that. 609 laps completed for Antti Burri. The Argentinian Marcelo Rafael Cerocci for Baporo Motorsport in their Cupra in second. In fact, the whole of the top 7 down to Tic Tac Top Car Sport, and their 1, 2, 3 TCRs. KTM Crossbow's done really well actually. Petra Lisa's behind the wheel of the RTR Projects car in 8th position, leads SP3 by a good margin from Perfection Racing, who are just outside the top 10. Hoffer Racing lead A3, the other category in the TCE Championship standings, and they're at 9 in the top 10. That Racing Cup BMW. Outside the top 10, AC Motorsport not going to turn any more laps, I wouldn't have thought, so you'll see the number 188 drop down, not being a banner weekend for them. And just looking down, Matt Neal's back in the Synchro Motorsport car in 12th. That's the Honda FK8 Type R Civic, second at A3. But I think their opportunity of taking championships has slipped away after that gearbox issue that required a full gearbox change overnight. They are well down on the A3 leader. That's how they stand now. 55 minutes to go here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya.
Not much wrong with the Bohemia Energy Racing with Scuderia Praha Ferrari. Josef Kral has actually taken a lap off the race leader, Dennis Lind. The Ferrari having just gone through there. Or has it actually? I don't think. Yes, it has. There goes the Ferrari now across the line. And here comes Dennis Lind chasing him down. and see what Andrew means about the headlights of the Lamborghini. It does look like one headlight is brighter than the other, but I think it's just that the left-hand headlight is pointing over to the left and the right-hand headlight is pointing over to the right. So as they come past me on this side of the circuit, it looks like only the left-hand headlight is working, but they are both in good shape.
The latest class leader to have problems was the 978 Speed Lover Porsche in the Cup category. The Audi 188 is back in its pitch. Shea, Adam, can you give us an update on Richard Verberg and the Speed Lover car? Was there any more damage than just that puncture?
Well, to start things off, you talked about the 188 Audi. Why is that relevant to Speed Lover? They share a garage, so if there was any further damage to the car, the team would have had to do the work on the pit lane because the garage currently occupied. The damage was minimal, thankfully, for Speed Lover. They came in, they changed all 4 Hankooks, they looked at the bodywork damage around the left rear of the Porsche. Looks as if Jaws came over and took a little tiny nibble out of the car. There's just a few fragments of carbon that aren't there where they should be, but other than that, they sent Richard back out. Their lead is safely intact for now.
Good use of the I Respect Isle of Wight Festival sunglasses there, Shea. Thank you very much indeed. Hello to Jonathan van Pluk and all of those that I respect. Great motorsport enthusiasts and supporters. Quality eyewear. Been absolutely standard fitment this weekend with barely a cloud to cover the sun here in Catalonia, just down a little bit south from the Costa Brava. Famous holiday area of Spain, particularly in the 70s and 80s, a destination for, I would have thought, many people's first foray into European holidays when package holidays first started to come about. So that was the first place I went in 1974, not that it was a package holiday, it was all booked separately by mum and dad, had a little villa, flew down here.
You couldn't afford to go on holiday.
We sold my sister. See, we never heard me talking about this. We sold out my sister into servitude to pay for a holiday. Flew down on Danair.
Here's Josef Kral into the
Comet.
Josef Kral into the pit lane for fuel. I said just before he came in there that the car was going very rapidly, and as I say, he did unlap himself as the car was getting light on fuel. I was just wondering whether Dennis Lind was trying to save a little bit of fuel and get to the flag without a final stop, but I don't see how he's going to be able to do that. It's not going to be feasible. He took on a full tank of fuel at with an hour and 50 minutes to go, and then he took on a half tank of fuel when the code 60 came out. It's going to be nip and tuck, very close indeed as for both of these cars to try and get to the flag without a final stop. Of course, if one of them can manage without that final splash, then that could be, it will be the 7 seconds in any event.
Question. What are the regulations here for having to be running at the end to be classified?
No restriction at all. You don't have to be running. You don't have to cross the line. We've had winners having only completed half the race in the past because you don't have to be on the track. So,
if both the cars on the lead lap ran out of fuel on what was effectively the last lap, how would we decide when the race had ended? Have we got to wait for GPX to make up the 3 laps?
Yes, this is one of the problems about the way that regulations are written, which nobody's quite thought of. Is
Heidol's brain works in a strange way.
This is also applies at Le Mans. If a car stops on the last lap, nobody gets shown the checkered flag until the leader crosses the line after 24 hours have been completed. Now, if a car is 10 laps behind in second place and the leader stops, then it's going to take 10 laps for the lead to change, and therefore for a new leader to cross the line and therefore take the checkered flag. It nearly happened at Le Mans.
Yes, it did.
But for the fact that, it didn't happen at Le Mans, I'll put it that way. And it's never happened anywhere else, but it is a little loophole in the regulations that they don't have an alternative way of getting the race to end if everybody stops on the last lap.
Bit of drama for the 4th placed TCR car, fourth in its division as well. Roy Edlund has planted the Holmgard Motorsport Volkswagen Golf into the beach. Front wheels are turning. Hankook's unable to get any kind of grip because they're not in any way touching anything solid at the moment. He needs to kick the clutch out there. Roy, put it into neutral. You're not going anywhere. Now, that is just to my left, turn 1. The marshals have come out to have a look to see if there's anything they can do. I don't think they're going to be able to push it out. There's a cursory, I'll lean on this, see if it gets any purchase. And the marshal is motioning that he's Platini, he's Rouge. Oh no, that would be French. I don't know what spelling he wears that is in Spanish.
I don't think he wants to get covered in gravel, which is what's going to happen if he starts leaning on the car.
Yes.
This may need another code 60.
Oh, there was stretch fuel again, Paul, for the leaders.
Exactly so. So do you come in under the code 60
and have no worries
to get that fuel that you need, or do you try and stretch it by going slowly under the code 60?
Depends where you. I reckon it depends where you are on the track, if and when it comes out. There's only 5 seconds between these two cars. If I'm in second place, you might chance it. You might say, come in for a splash of fuel and a new set of Hankooks to give you the best opportunity in the last 40 minutes or whatever it is when we go back to green to make up to position.
Or stick Sven Muller back in the car because you're now within the drive time.
Well, exactly right. So you could put Sven Muller back in the car. Yeah. Oh my goodness, decisions.
I've given Herbert enough ideas already this weekend. Car Collection has decided.
Yeah, but you're sending them an invoice, though, aren't you, Paul?
Car Collection have come back in again with the number 88 car. Jürgen Hering it was who was getting into that car before, and he's brought the car in for fuel. He may have been assuming that there might be code 60 going to happen, but it hasn't done yet. We've still got just a station, or a waved yellow flag at turn 1 where the incident is with this Homegard Volkswagen.
Stuart Hall, fastest man on the track for a wee while now, down in the 51s. Oh, and as I say that, Ralph Bourne puts in a 51.3. Got to mention as well Benji Gotha, who is the protege of Stuart Hall, who's acquitted himself rather well this weekend. Adam, where are you?
I'm scrambling to turn on my mic. I'm down in the Holmgard Motorsport Garage, the Volkswagen that is off the course. They're getting new brakes ready for it, so Roy Eglin might not have been his fault that he went off in turn 1. He might have gone to the middle pedal and found that there was no resistance there.
Yeah,
that certainly makes sense.
Yes, and certainly that is a problem as you get to the end of brake wear. Suddenly that last, it's not a linear wear on brake pad material. The thinner it gets, the less efficient it gets, and the quicker it wears down. So you do get that situation sometimes, and if you are trying to just squeeze to the end of the race, although for the 102 car they were quite a long way down anyway, in 4th place in the TCR class. 5th place car is now only 1 lap behind. That's the TTC Racing, the chocolate coloured car, number 103 in 5th place in the TCR class. But shortly to become 4th place as long as that car sits in the gravel over there at turn 1.
24-hour motors have a rule for the leader goes absent without leave case. It's after a number of minutes, it's RTL says maybe 8, that the lost leader is disqualified, and then there's a moving leader again and the checkered flag can be waved. Harsh, but I mean,
yes,
otherwise you're there until a week next Tuesday if they build up a 50-lap lead.
Well, yes, that was another reason that was given for there being a limit on the length of time it takes you to complete the last lap, was that the marshals have to know at some stage when they can go home if there is a slow car coming around on the last lap. But yes, I don't know, things like that. They're kind of areas of rules which so rarely happen that you just need somebody who can make a decision.
We are 10 laps or 20 minutes or thereabouts away from a distance record here. 6:77 last year for Herbeth, despite 3 hours and 50 minutes and 19 code 60 periods. So 3 hours and 50 minutes of purple.
Not that far off that this year either. 2 hours 47 minutes thus far of code 60 periods.
Far fewer though, but just one very long one at 70 minutes, which is has contributed to that time.
12 code 60 periods, but as you say, there was the one that was over an hour, which tried everybody. Dennis Lind is
all of a sudden only 4 seconds ahead.
not getting away from Ralph Bone. You said a little while ago that the gap was coming down, or that Ralph Bone was going quickly. Well, we've now gone code 60, so now you do have to make your decisions. They tried to pull the VW Golf backwards out of the gravel. That didn't work.
So they're going to have to pull it forwards.
They're going to have to pull it forwards, and that means they need to get closer to the track, which is why we've gone code 60. So it all makes good sense.
Yeah, all perfectly sensible logic. They've tried to do it without going code 60. 3 seconds between them before the code 60. The purple flags came out. Where are they on the track? I hear you say they are in the third sector, and Barwell have stayed out. So Lind has not come into the pits now. Behind them, has the Herbeth car come in? No, he has not. So
Herbert.
neither of them gambling then.
Herbert have to simply copy here.
Do you think?
Yes. Basically, that, to my mind, would be the right call. Whatever Barwell did, they would copy. It's also quite an easy way then to make a last-minute decision. You point at the car in front and say, just do what he does.
And keep him in sight. The thing is, it's not going to be very long once the toe hook is on the front of the car that the code 60 disappears. But given where they were, I think I might have risked Ralph Bone coming into the pits. A very, very minor amount of fuel, but then put in your fastest driver with a new set of Hankooks. You would have lost some time, but you're going to have 40 minutes, over half an hour, to make it up on full rich and new tyres. I think it's worth it. I mean, otherwise, you know, duh.
When one day we can do this, and yeah, we'll each run a car. How about that? There's always different ways of doing things, and it's always the trouble is it's always very difficult to work out what the correct decision was, because you end up after the race saying, oh well, my decision would have worked, but then you say, yeah, but it only worked because this and this then happened, and at the time, knowing what you knew, you don't always have all the information that you need to get to the end of the race. Like, is there going to be another code 60 before the end of the race? Is it going to rain before the end of the race? There are other variables.
Those variables you can't control. What you can control is what you do at the time. And therefore, are they marginal on fuel? Do they possibly need one more stop? Well, we don't know the exacts of that. So maybe that's telling us, Paul, that they don't need to stop. Yeah. Because if they did need to stop, why wouldn't you have done that now, even if you didn't change the driver?
Because you didn't know how long the code 60 was going to last, and you didn't want to be... well, anyway, we've got under 1 minute to go before the green light.
We've got green flags.
So we've gone green already.
Yeah.
And so the 4 seconds that it was... we can't measure the time at the moment because that was the time going across the line at 60 kilometres an hour. That will be different next time around. And still this... I just have to echo what Robert Renauer said. I mean, this has been absolutely the closest for the longest continuous time Creventic race that I think we've ever seen.
The best 24-hour race that I had seen ever was this year at the Nürburgring 24. I enjoyed that. I thought there was something happening all the time, all the way through the field. It was an endurance race that was won flat out, sometimes in the most difficult of conditions on, for me, the most difficult circuit in the world as far as endurance racing is measured, on which endurance racing is made. I think this has topped it. I think this has topped it. Not all the way through the field necessarily, but there's been plenty of good battles. But we haven't been able to take our eyes off the top of the timing screen. Not because we're concentrating on the front of the field, because that has been red hot burn your fingers to touch it every time we've looked at this lead. 3.6 seconds across the line with 40 minutes to go, and the race is still on for the overall win and the win in A6 Pro. Extraordinary.
Yes, and it's certainly going to go for that last 40 minutes as well. We don't need to worry about that. Still, the rest of positions as they were. I was just checking down to see how much time the Speed Lover car lost. It still has the advantage in the 991 class, but instead of being 12 laps of an advantage, now 10 laps of an advantage.
Which is 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So the tagline and the hashtag for Hankook 24-hour series is hashtag this is endurance. They might have to change this to this is completely bonkers because it's been fantastic. This is entertainment. This is as close as you like. This is endurance, apparently. Wow, is all I'm going to say. Brilliant stuff. And hats off to everybody who's been a part of this. GPX Racing, without their little issue early on, would have been right in it as well, Paul, because once that was sorted, they lost 4 or 5 laps early on, and they've not really fallen any further back than that. And particularly when Stewart's in the car, he's as quick as anybody out there. And that's GPX Racing Porsche, the car that won the 11 hours of the Spa 24 in class. Has been right on it there, and as I say, this has been one overall, yeah. But for their issue earlier on, they would have been, and that just shows you what sort of race this has been for the two leaders. A few minor issues. I don't think the Herbert cars had much go wrong with it. Barwell had one left rear puncture. The 91 car hasn't had a puncture. But the time lost by GPX has just been impossible to make up to the two leaders.
Yeah, just at the right time. Yeah, there's another car that might influence this yet, and that is that Ralph Bone has a rather racy-looking Bockenspiegel Team Monschau Ferrari in his mirrors, and that might just distract him a little bit. Jochen Krumbach at the wheel of the 22 car he's doing a 1 minute 51.398 that last lap, which is a tenth of a second quicker than either Ralph Bone in the Herbert Porsche or the Barwell Lamborghini has gone. So we don't have the benefit of having the Scuderia Praha Ferrari in the leading group, having lost that time earlier on with the turbo connector problem. But the Bockenspiegel car, certainly when Jochen Krumbach is behind the wheel of it, is a very rapid proposition indeed. That car has had a couple of offs into gravel and a couple of collisions on the way there, but it's still going very fast when it's going well.
I'm sure you've enjoyed the coverage of this race, if you've enjoyed the coverage of this race as much as we've enjoyed has given it to you. You might want to know that the 6th of October we're at Spa for the TCR Spa 500 laps of Spa-Francorchamps purely for TCR cars, and then in November we're at Kota for the final Hankook 24 Hours series event of the season that will decide the championship of the continents, and we'll have that for you as well. I wonder if Darren Law will be there, the man behind Flying Lizard Motorsport in the States. He's been drafted in to the CP Racing squad this weekend, and Shea Adam is with him.
It's like you're reading my mind, John. Darren Law, you've won some major 24-hour races before, Daytona, Thunder Hill, but this is your first Creventic event. We talked to you at night practice, what seems like a million nights ago. What do you think about Creventic after doing a full race?
You know what? It's really been a lot of fun. It's a great series. It's run well. We've had a blast. It didn't work out exactly how we wanted, but we stayed out of trouble, and it's been a really good time. I've enjoyed it.
Do you think that maybe after running here, we might see the Nerd Herd and the Flying Lizards come run? There's a 24-hour race at Kota just around the corner.
There is. You never know. We have lots of stuff up in the air, and I wouldn't say that we would not go to one of these. It's a really cool event. It's a lot of fun, so we would consider it.
Whet your appetite a little bit?
Yeah. And I got to drive, so I had a good old time out there, so, shake off the rust. Yeah.
So now that you've done a few stints in the Mercedes, what's it like being behind the wheel of one of those?
Sorry. You know what? It's really interesting because obviously I spent most of my driving career behind a Porsche, and I've driven several other cars as well. The Mercedes is a really nice car to drive. It's fairly neutral, and it doesn't do anything really wrong. So it was nice. It was interesting to drive it.
Well, that's Darren's first interview during a Creventic race. Doubt it's going to be your last one. Thanks for coming out to play.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, very interesting what Darren Lowe said there about what is a front-engined car. Rear and mid-engine cars is what he's been driving in the past, but the engine, the V8 in that Mercedes AMG GT3 is pushed a long way back. It's almost the old Pano's idea of a mid-front engine car. It's what gives the balance of that car. So Paul, 34 minutes to go, 3.5 seconds. Lind versus Bowen. You're still crunching numbers here.
I think that Bone can definitely get to the end of the race without another stop.
Right.
They came in a little bit later for their stop. Remember, that was when they changed the driver to Sven Muller, who did just the 5 laps, and then it went in under the code 60, and Ralph Bone got in, and I think they now have enough fuel aboard to get them to the end of the race. I think. I'm pretty sure they've got enough fuel to get them to the end of the race. Whether Barwell has enough fuel to get them to the end of the race, I'm sure Barwell knows, but I'm afraid I can't quite work it out. So we'll leave that one up in the air and say that Dennis Lind will be possibly in a position where he's trying to save the fuel in order not to have to make that splash of fuel and therefore be able to just stay ahead of the Herbert Porsche.
And of course the problem is, Paul, is how close are they? Because if they're quite close, you save fuel and try and keep the position. He's got 3.5 seconds at the moment. It's not an awful lot to play with. If that's 35 seconds, you can manage that gap. But at 3.5 seconds, you're saving fuel. Once you get past, do you look at the time on the clock and say, they're not going to lose second, so you might as well come in, stick a new set of tyres on and some fuel and go chase.
Your friend of mine, Howard Haynes, once said to me, the problem with fuel saving is as soon as you decide that's what you're going to do, you've got no other options.
Correct.
If you're not going to save fuel, then you've got all the options in the world open to you. Basically, if Dennis is saving fuel, and we're not really in a position to say so, other than that the times are not quite as quick as their best. However, the temperature is going up. The track has an awful lot of pickup and rubbish on it. And so it might not be possible, but if you look back at Jochen Krumbach, he's doing the same kind of times. We've got Max Edelhoff in the Car Collection Audi number 34 now. He's going quicker than either of those two cars. It's you wonder whether they're actually being pushed quite as hard as they can go, or whether they're just watching each other, a bit like one of those cycle races.
I was just about to say, they're up on the banking at the moment, holding the bike on the backwards brake on the single gearing in one of those races where you can stand still for 90 seconds. Very, very impressive driving by both Dennis Lind and Ralph Bowen at the moment, and we will be looking at these times every lap through. This time it's advantage Barwell as the gap goes out to a massive 4.4 seconds, because the 151.9 is the better of the two lap times. 52.7 for the second place car, 51.9. Traffic taketh, traffic giveth. It's all going to happen. It's going to be the ebb and flow, and we've got 31 minutes to go. And when Paul Truswell's got his arms folded next to me, he's on the balls of his feet here, just moving around. He's got no clue. This is now pretty much all the tactical cards now, Paul, have been played. They may or may not be managing fuel. They'll be talking to the drivers and asking about fuel numbers in the car. But unless they do something really left field now, it's down to the drivers.
Absolutely, and that's the way it should be. There's another Herbert Porsche just behind Dennis Lind, and it's the Klaus Bachler driven car. Not going to be keeping Klaus Bachler at bay, that's for sure. He's leading the AM part of A6. He's in 4th place overall, and he is just yards behind Dennis Lind's Barwell Lamborghini as they went across the start-finish line.
Dennis needs to let him go.
Gap first to second has gone up again. Ralph Bone a 1 minute 53 that time, more than a second slower than Dennis Lind, so the gap up to 6.8 seconds.
There are people joining us all the time at RSL_studio. And the situation is this, with half an hour to go in TCE. Andy Burry leads with a 7-lap lead. That's the Top Car Sport with Baz Cooten. Cupra TCR, 7 laps back to Baporo Motorsport, who have 5 laps on Autorama. So that looks all right there. SP3, Petrolisa behind the wheel of the RTR Projects. KTM Crossbow leads with plenty of laps in hand there on second place, which is Perfection Racing Europe. A3 led by Axel Burkhardt and Hoffer Racing by Bonk Motorsport, the BMW. Second place there, again many laps down, is Synchro. Matt Neal doing his stint in that after a broken gearbox for that car. In the GT categories, GT4 led by Orchid Racing Team. They've got now, now all of a sudden they've pulled out a bit more. They're up to 11 laps now. So Massimo Salamanca getting closer to the point where they can't be overhauled in that Porsche 718 Cayman. In the GT4 category, 991 Cup class, Richard Verberg back out in the 978 Speed Lover car, which leads on 620 laps. It's 614. No, 611 laps for Team Webhead. So that has come down to a 9-lap lead. It was over 10 at one stage, but still that looks comfy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was 12 before the Speed Lover car had the puncture.
That just, I mean, they weren't delayed that long getting back to the pit lane and lost a couple of laps. SPX, KTM GTX, Lara Krahammer is leading for True Racing. They've done 646 laps, and it's 614 for the second place team Clickverse.de Porsche. So that looks all right. Then we get to the top class, inside the top 10. Fourth position, Klaus Bachler, Herbert Motorsport, 664 laps. And just coming around to complete 663, Jürgen Herrig for Car Collection Motorsport in the 88, the orange Car Collection Motorsport Audi. That's A6 Am first and second. And just coming round to complete 662 laps is Max Edelhoff in the Car Collection Motorsport, the second car, the 34 blue and white. So that's first, second and third within a handful of laps there. And at the top of the timing screen, and in A6 Pro, first, second and third are first, second and third in the overall. 668 laps completed by Stuart Hall for GPX Racing in third place. And just coming round to complete 675 laps now. There goes Dennis Lind, and Ralph Bourne comes through now, 8.6 seconds behind. Battle for the lead down to under 10 seconds, or still under 10 seconds, should I say. Yeah,
and Klaus Bachler not making any inroads into Dennis Lind's car, whereas Ralph Bohn has had to let Jochen Krumbach past him. Yeah. So we've got 4 cars, not just the 2 that are battling for the lead, but the other 2 as well. Very rapid indeed. Klaus Bachler and Jochen Krumbach, who are both lapping very quickly indeed.
60-second time penalty for Jürgen Herrig, second place in A6 Am, and that is going to take them pretty close to Max Edelhoff's car in the 34 car collection, the second of the car collection cars, overtaking under code 60.
The 2 911 cars, 2 991 class cars, both in the pits at the same time. Tom Dillman came in with the Webhead's car, and probably be handing that car over now. JM Litton hasn't been in the car for a long time. So
his turn next, I think.
JM's turn next. And Richard Verberg, who brought the car in with that puncture, remember, it wasn't that long ago, but when he did bring it in with the puncture, he didn't go to fueling first. He just came straight in and got the tyres replaced. So this time he had to come in to get the fuel put in. But he's decided that he wants to stay in to take the car through to the finish of the race as well. So Richard Verberg, then in the Speed Lover car, is on his way again with that very much of an advantage over the rest of the 991 class field. Tom Dillman has also stayed behind the wheel of the Webhead's car, so not giving a chance to JM or anyone else to drive the car to the finish. that will probably be there for Tom Dillman, who's done probably as much driving as anybody.
Yeah.
Just to see and find out how much driving Tom has done, but he's certainly been worked very hard indeed by the Webheads team.
Oh, it's Stuart Hall in trouble in the number 24 GPX Racing. This is the third place Porsche. Is it a left rear puncture? It is a left rear puncture. Oh, well, the position is safe-ish in the overall. Certainly safe in A6 Pro. He's got a 3-lap lead. But that's a disappointment for GPX. I've just been saying, Paul, how good they'd been. And but for an issue earlier on, they would have been up there. Well, they've picked up that left rear puncture.
It was a puncture before,
It
wasn't
was, yeah, absolutely.
And
that's another Porsche puncture. How many's that? 6 or 7 now?
Well, if
at least.
I was going to say we had the 2 very significant punctures on the Fricadelli Porsche, and then at least 4 on 991 class Porsches. But yeah, that was.
And didn't the GT4 Cayman have a couple as well? The psychedelic car.
Yes, it did. Yeah, all very different types of Porsche, all running with the same type of Hankook tyre. So no real explanation for that. Dennis Lind is now, and he's quite sure, trying to work out whether it's quicker times from Dennis or slower times from Ralph Bone.
He got down into the 150s the last couple of laps, so certainly Dennis had the hurry up. Stewart's going to come in for a splash of fuel, has done in the 24 anyway, to get him to the end for the last 23 minutes. Oh, he'll not be happy, will Stewart? He'll not like that at all. 11 seconds now. Ralph Bourne out to a 53.7. Is it swinging towards Barwell? I can't even imagine what Mark Lemmer looks like at the moment. I bet he's pacing around like an expectant father.
He told me at the beginning of the weekend that he doesn't have much to do.
That's bad
Threatened
for Lemmer.
to come up here.
Yeah.
So he said, what I've done is I've ended up listening to you guys. So hopefully Mark will still be listening to us, but he may have decided that all that pressure is too much for him. But yeah, it's very difficult indeed when you don't have a proper job to do in the garage.
Klaus Klosterman in the Perfection Racing Europe Ginetta G55 has just got the most bizarre penalty. 15 seconds for contact. Nothing too odd about that. Contact during the code 60. Klaus, really? That will be added onto a pit stop or to the end of the race time. Going to affect his position in class or overall. But, oh dear. Have to have a doff of the Porsche Motorsport cap to the 415 Orchid Racing team. The GT4 category, not the most, not the best supported, with only I think 4 entries to start with, but they have been right there from the start and up inside the top 25 overall, as Stuart Hall has brought the GP Extreme Porsche in and shows no intention, Shay, of getting out.
No, definitely not. He got 4 gently used Hankooks put onto the Porsche, so at least he has some fresh rubber to go out there and try and set some fast laps and reclaim some pride. But all of the other drivers are still in their fire suits, because as it is right now, they are going to make a trip to the podium. It's just going to be a little bit further back than they were hoping.
Just to go back to the question about Tom Dillman and how much he's been driving, actually not as much as Dennis Lind has done. Tom Dillman's driving time in total during the race, 8.5 hours thus far, and counting. Whereas in the 77 Barwell car, Dennis Lind has really done a marathon stint. He's been at the wheel of the car for more than 10 hours for Barwell Motorsport, and I suspect that's been partly because he's had to do the lion's share of the driving, because Patrick Kiala, as he said to us, not having felt very well after his first stint, and so Patrick having to make Dennis do a bit more work. during the race. Over 10 hours of driving in conditions that have been very warm indeed.
Barwell and Lind, 152.4 last time around, 151.6 for Bourne, 10.5 seconds the gap. As into the pits with some work required, the 102 Golf. That car is Roy Edland, the home guard car, still in third in TCR, but only with a 2-lap gap back to the Autorama number 114, Jan Sørensen in that car at the moment, trying to get on the TCR podium, leading in its class, the class of one albeit, but it's been a pretty good run, save for a little driveline problem for the JS2R Ligier. First time we've seen that in Creventic competition. 23rd position in the GT category.
Yeah, it was a 4-hour clutch change on the Ligier.
And on that car wasn't designed as an endurance car, and that tells you it wasn't designed as an endurance car, because you can't be taking 4 hours to change a clutch.
The SPX class leader, though, Laura Kreihammer at the wheel of the KTM GTX, has gone very well indeed, and is not only leading the SPX class, but is in 9th place overall. So that car has done very well indeed to its class positions. The 991 class leader, the epitome of a boring white Porsche, Speed Lover, issuing any types of stickers apart from the mandatory ones that the organisers demand that they place on the car. And the 978 then, Speed Lover, Richard Verburg, taking the car through to the checkered flag, and a yellow flag has appeared at turn 4. I think that's been the long right-hander at Repsol, the corner that has caused the most difficulties over the course of this race. No indication just yet of what might have triggered the yellow flag. In fact, it's been taken in again already, so hopefully just a small quick spin and got away with it. Shay down in the pits
with Lemsky. You guys wanted to see him. You wanted to make sure he wasn't pacing around like a caged animal. How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
I'm wondering why I do this every weekend for the last 25 years, really. And I don't want this to be one of those moments where suddenly everyone looks at the screen over my shoulder and says, oh my God, you can't believe this is happening in the last 15 minutes. But no, we're all calm. Of course, Paul was absolutely right. Dennis was fuel saving. We had to really fuel save like crazy. But we're good on fuel now, so just see if we can squeak it to the end, hopefully.
Good on fuel. Does that mean that Dennis can push?
Dennis can push now. We're good on fuel. We've saved enough fuel, so there's no issues. But you never know. You know, there could be a pickup problem and you get down to the last 10 litres. Don't want to be too cynical, but I've seen it all before. But look, whatever happens, it's been probably the most amazing 24-hour race that I've ever been involved with, and I've been involved as a team owner, a driver, a spectator, a fan, and over the years I thought I'd seen everything, but 24 hours of just constant being this close has just been something else.
All right, you said Dennis has saved enough fuel, but just how close are you? Is he going to run out on the cool-down lap?
We should be good. Should be good.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you, Shay, I've known Lemmer for a long time as a driver and a team manager, and he looks cool and calculated to the outside world there. He is absolutely on hot bricks at the moment. There's no doubt in my mind he was being super professional there, but there was just the note in his eyes.
Exactly. It's the slight twitch in the eyeball as
absolutely.
He's examining the crew guys, looking at the screen to see, is it really going to be okay?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right, Shay. The last 15 minutes then. And it's now 12 seconds. But it's going up and down. Half a second this way, 7/10 the other. Another second back the other way. Lyndon Bowen being left to duke it out to the end. 23 hours and 45 minutes of racing under our belt, and we still don't know who the winner is going to be. This is endurance. This is Creventic endurance. This is the 24-hour Hankook series version of endurance, where it's never over until it's over. The end of the European season is 15 minutes away. Still quarter to come in November, the TCR Spa 500 in October. But right here, right now, I bet Lemsky's not taking proper breaths, really. As I say, he looked professional, but I just think he had that look of, oh, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen?
I'm going to say a word about Herbert, because they've had a phenomenally difficult season this year.
They have.
They've
not a Herbert type season, really.
It certainly hasn't been a Herbert type season. They've had a couple of mistakes. They've had a phenomenally strong Scuderia Praha car to compete against. A couple of times the Scuderia Praha car got unlucky and Herbert weren't able to capitalise on it. Then they come along to the 24 Hours of Barcelona. The Scuderia Praha car has all manner of problems, and Herbert suddenly find this Lamborghini, which, by Robert Renauer's own admission, has given them one of the hardest races that Robert Renauer could ever remember being involved in. You know, if there were a Spirit of the Season award, then I think Herbert really do have to take the biscuit for it, because I mean, Andrew made the point earlier, I think, right at the beginning of the race. Herbert come with a very basic kind of setup. You know, it's not like they have an awful lot of technology down there. You know, it's not a massively over-engineered operation that the Herbert Motorsport team run, but they do go about things extremely efficiently, and as I say, to come away from this with a second place, I'm not predicting the result at all, but it has been a very trying season all round for Herbert Motorsport. Meanwhile, in the penalty box, the number 88 Ewan Herring car collection car is taking its penalty, and this is a 1 minute time penalty that they will have to sit there in the penalty box for.
It's moving now, Paul.
Overtaking under the code 60.
They got a 1 minute penalty for overtaking the code 60, and Klaus Klosterman got 15 seconds for running into someone in the code 60.
Depends what the particular situation
yes, was. Yes, I know. I know. Just seems a bit odd, doesn't it? Down to the first corner then. Under 12 minutes to go. 6 laps or thereabouts for the number 77, and for Dennis Lind, 1:53 that time around. And the gaps come down to under 12 seconds, but it's more than 11.4. They'll think that that's manageable right now. I noticed when Mark Lemmer, the team principal at Barwell, was talking about absolutely fine, yeah, we've saved enough fuel, unless we can't pick it up at the end. I wanted to say, how much have you got left then? Yeah. How close are you going? And have you been that close before?
And of course, Mark doesn't know, because it's the engineer behind him who's actually doing all the sums. Mark's just asking him, he says, have we got enough fuel yet, Will? And Will said, yes, we have, don't worry about it, Mark. So, you know, and this is part of Mark's problem, I think. You know, when you're a racing driver, you can control everything because you're in the driving seat. That's what Dennis Lind is doing. You're controlling everything, you're in the driving seat. When you're team principal, you have to delegate all the jobs out and just know and trust that all those jobs you're delegating out, you've done the right bit of delegation to the right person, and that person has picked up all of the things you've told him to do, or her to do. And you know, I mean, and that's why sometimes racing drivers don't make good team principals, because it's a very different skill set that's required. It's much more of an organisational skill set for a team manager, team principal in someone like Mark Lemmer's position.
10 minutes now, Paul. Lind's gone through again. Was 11.4. 51.2 last time around. Where's Bourne? There he goes now underneath us. And he's had a very slow lap indeed. 1:54 near enough. And all of a sudden it's 14 seconds. 14 seconds.
Yeah, we're looking at around 690 laps.
So that will be a new record. In fact, we've already done a new record, haven't we?
We're already into record territory. We went there with 20 minutes of the race still to go. That's something to mark in the record books, a record distance for Barcelona 24 hours. And we've got on the camera there of the number 1 Aston Martin, which is still going strong, having not gone at all for the first half of the race. Rodrigue Guillon behind the wheel of the Pro Sport / Virage entered Aston Martin.
V10 engine singing along quite nicely for Dennis Lind. I wonder if he's hearing any odd noises, clunks, clatters. Every time he gets a bit of pickup on the tyres and it rattles onto the bottom of the car, he'll be thinking the worst. Bit of loose bodywork at the back on the left-hand side was a problem earlier on, and there's a little bit waving around at the back on the right as well. But that was all from the puncture that they had early for the Barwell car, and they've been immaculate since then. 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, they've had a little bit of damage as well on the other side of the rear of the car as well. The right rear has also had some damage. So the puncture was on the left rear, but I think they had some contact at some stage with something else on the right-hand side as well. So there's been quite a lot of taping going on the right rear. But such is the nature of the endurance racing. But there's always a little bit of damage here and there. That's why it's so much fun looking around the cars at the end of the race to see some of the stories that the cars have to tell.
Shea and Andrew will reflect on this race before we have the podium ceremonies later on. And I should say, obviously, Creventic have made the sympathetic decision to recognise the tragic events that's cost the life of Antoine Hubert at Spa this weekend in the F2 race yesterday in the podium ceremonies, and I'm sure our teams will respect the decision that's been made there. Shea and Andrew have got to reflect on that before they do that, Paul. I'll give you the opportunity to say a few words as we're counting down into the last 7 minutes with a 14.5-second lead between the two cars. And this hasn't just come together, for those who perhaps are just joining us, this hasn't just come together in the last half an hour or the last hour or the last 4 hours or the last 6 hours.
It's been a 24-hour slugging match between Herbert and Barwell, and I have to say as well, it's been a very difficult race for me to cover because, as you know, I've been involved with Barwell and too long to go in this race, but they had a huge success at the Spa 24 Hours, taking home the Silver Cup trophy. They are the Blancpain Endurance AM champions this year. They're going into the final round of the British GT Championship in a couple of weekends' time, again with a chance of lifting a trophy. What Barwell does, they do very, very well indeed. They leave no list. Every list they have has ticks on it by the time they get to the end. And they have huge numbers of lists, and I said about the way Mark runs his team, it's all about the way you delegate and then make sure the people that you've delegated to are doing their jobs properly. And as I say, Barwell have come to this race twice before. I can't do any of this because it's going to get too close to the end of the race. But it's been a phenomenal race, let's just put it that way. And entirely the opposite thing has happened in the TCR class, where in the TCE division and the TCR class, the Baz Kooten car, again, a guy who's formerly raced cars but now is in a team manager position, has not only put himself in a dominant position, but is of 15 laps to the good at the head of the TCR, 10 laps to the good. I'm slightly over putting there. Antti Buuri in the 131 car has done an absolutely sterling job of driving. Fabian Danz is going to end up as the TCE champion of Europe in the Drivers' Championship, being aided by Antti Buuri, Julian Apostolos, who's done an awful lot of driving as well, and Loris Pratis, the fourth member of that team. A terrific job done by everybody in the TCR, TCE division, and that Basque TCR team. Good hats off though to Bakoro Motorsport, who have come along to the this 24-hour race, first time as returnees to a Creventic race, and has gone very well indeed. They're in second place in TCR, and a lot of good performances down the line as well. Hats off to the KTM GTX, which has got into all of our hearts. And of course in the A3 class, Synchro Motorsport, they're just going to miss out on taking top honours in any of the European Championships, but they should be able to at least finish with second place in the Drivers' Championship, as well as winning the A3 class overall.
Well, I've been absolutely enthralled by this as we're heading into the last 3 minutes of this race. I really needed to get some sleep last night, but I was watching the onboards and had the timing up back at the hotel until I finally dozed off. And it has been... I was so worried that I was going to miss the really important moment when the battle at the front cracked, Paul. And of course, it hasn't. And that's the thing. The beautiful thing about endurance racing is you never know when the moment, the defining moment of the race has been. And the defining moment of this race is going to be the checkered flag, because it has just been a fight. I don't think anybody's really made any mistakes.
No, I mean, exactly. You describe this often, and I know you follow Test match cricket, but it's a bit like that with Test match cricket as well. You have to pay attention to every ball, because any ball can get you out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's it all comes down to who scores the most runs over the full course of 5 days or whatever the Test match runs to. And at the moment, it's all down. And hats off to Dennis Lind. He saved fuel when he had to save fuel, and I was quite convinced that Herbert were going to have enough fuel to get to the end of the race. It wasn't clear at all to me what Barwell could do, but they do seem to have managed that fuel correctly, and with just a couple of minutes to go, are able to get to the end.
A word for both Barwell and Herbert's less experienced drivers, because they have played their part. They've had to. There's been no way that they could run and hide. They've had to be in the car. They've had to do laps. All right, Leo Masitsky for the 77 car had an hour behind the safety car, or behind the full course purple, should I say. But when he got going, he played himself in. That was the first time he'd been in the car. I thought that was a really important moment for them. And when you look at the Herbert less experienced drivers, they've done their jobs as well.
Well, haven't they just? Yes, I mean, Ralph Bone and Daniel Alleman have been twice former winners of this race, so they've more than done their, pulled their weight behind the wheel. But of course, remember for the Lamborghini guys, for Leo McKinsey and Adrian Amstutz, they were expecting to only do 2 hours. Dennis Lind made that very clear at the beginning of the race, but in the end doing practically double that, both of them, than what they were expected to do, with Patrick Kuyala becoming heat struck during the early part of the race. Did very well indeed to then recover sufficiently to be able to get the car through to get it through to be able to hand it over to Dennis Lind and be able to let Dennis to then do this monster 2-hour stint to the end of the race. Last lap they go on to Barwell Motorsport, Lamborghini Huracan leading the way, with Klaus Bachler still behind him in the leading A6 AM class car, John.
It was 12 seconds at the line. The final race of the Hankook 24-hour European Championship season. Although we will have an endurance race for TCR cars at Spa in October the 3rd to the 6th. the Spa 500. And then we've got the final championship of the Continents race at Kota in November. A true team effort from both first and second. In some ways, it is a shame that one of them has to win it, because they've both had what you could term race-winning runs here in a 24-hour race. You seldom get a clean run, and both of these teams have reacted to the circumstances. The A6 Pro and A6 AM leaders together now, and the TCE leader in there as well.
Bachler has actually gone past.
Yeah, I think he's going to drop back in behind now because he's
doing another lap, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. So three class leaders there, A6 Pro and AM, and the TCE race leader as well, all together on the track. It's been a long time coming for Barwell here in Creventic. Well, not that long at all. They nearly had they had a chance of victory in Mugello. 2 corners to go, and Mark Lemmer's team are going to win. We've got the KTM right in behind them. That's a class winner as well. That's Laura Kraihammer coming through. The checkered flag is out, and Barwell win the Barcelona 24 hours in the Hankook 24-hour series. What a run from Barwell. Herbeth will be second. A very creditable second, honourable second, hard-fought second. Virtually nothing between them. 10.4 seconds at the line over 24 hours and 690 laps. 690 laps, 10.4 seconds. Do the arithmetic yourself about how much of an advantage per lap that was. Bas Coton Racing have pulled out a good lead and won in the TCE and TCR categories. Andy Burry brings that one home. Shea Adam is down with Barwell Motorsport as we wait for the Bohemia Energy Racing Scuderia Praha Ferrari to come through, who will win the GT Championship in Europe for the Hankook 24-hour series. They've still got half a lap to go. Shea, jump in if you can get anybody down there.
I'm just trying to get the attention of Leo Machitsky, because when we talked yesterday, you were expecting to drive about half as much as you wound up doing. Yeah. You've won major 24-hour races before at Spa, but what's it like winning at Barcelona?
Amazing winning outright. Amazing job by the team. Our strategy had to change a little bit. One of our drivers wasn't feeling too well. Just absolutely over the moon with it.
How much on edge were you at the end of that one?
At the end, the whole 24 hours, we were swapping with Herbert, racing every single stop. So it was a nail biter to the end, because we were very tight on fuel. So we had to run fuel saving mode at the end. So we were holding Dennis back.
This really announces Barwell, though. You've gone head-to-head with one of the best teams in Creventic, and you guys came out on top. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Creventic.
Yeah, well said, Leo. Been a great event. Notice the sticker on the 112 saying "Get well soon." Rehabilitation. Stefan Praran got knocked over in the pit lane on Friday evening and is still in hospital at the moment. Stefan Param, we wish you the best from everyone here as well. You've been missed. And Autorama Motorsport by Wolf Power Racing, the 112 car, get on the podium in TCR, brought home by Ralph Henigler, and they win the European Championship in TCE, not just TCR, TCE, the second race that we had here. There's a GT race and a TCE Touring Car Endurance race as well. It's been a great season for that team as well, Paul. Not always without drama for Autorama, but they have certainly overcome those dramas, including here with poor Stefan in hospital.
Yeah, absolutely, and you've got to go out. Your thoughts have to go out to him and to James Kay, who were on the cusp as well of winning the European Drivers' Championship, but that one has just got away from them and gone to Fabien Dance, provisionally by my calculations, who it was Bas Couton's driver. So by winning the race, Bas Couton then at least delivers a Drivers' Championship to Fabien Dance. Good to see the Bohemia Energy, despite not having had the most successful race here. I mean, their season was sufficiently solid to be able, as I said earlier on, come into this race with no real chance of being beaten for the overall European Championship, and with Autorama as well taking home the spoils as far as the European Championship in the TCE division are concerned as well. Good performance by everybody at Autorama.
Nice to see a decent crowd in the grandstands as well to see the cars cross the line, and they're gathering for the podium ceremonies, which will be somewhat muted after that tragic death of Antoine Hubert in the F2 race at Silverstone, at Spa at the weekend. Let's confirm the results as they've crossed the line. This is provisional until post-race scrutineering, of course, but as it stands, Barwell Motorsport win their first Hankook 24-hour event. The 77 Lamborghini Huracan comes home 10.5 seconds ahead of Herbeth Motorsport in second position. GPX Porsche in third for the 24 team. Fourth for Herbeth Motorsport, the second car, the AM car, winning the AM category ahead of car collection number 34 and car collection number 88. The two car collection Audis then second and third in AM. Towards the bottom of the top 10, True Racing win with the 216 KTM at GTX, and at the bottom of the top 10, not the best weekend for Scuderia Praha, but they are crowned GT champions of Europe for the Hankook 24-hour series. Speed Lover win a topsy-turvy back and forth 991 class, which was really being battled over by 3 or 4 cars right through to the final hours. Ahead of Team Webheads in second, Porsche Lorient Racing in third. GT4 Orchid Racing battled through and had the best reliability and pace to win that, well inside the top 20 of GT. The Vortex V8 coming home in third in SPX. The True Racing number 217 KTM JDX just dropping away a little bit, and congratulations to Zorg Rennsport who fought problems. Porsche Lorient, Hoffer, Nordschleifer Racing all just outside the top 20, and problems early on for the second of the Orchid Racing team. The Renault RS01 really never got going. Fricadelli troubled with punctures and a broken floor. Caught Oyster Racing, unusually for that team, not getting to the end with the Mark II Coupe. Pro Sport Aston Martin missed half the race with an overheating problem, but did turn some laps in the second half of the race. In TCE, far more cut and dried. A 10-lap victory for Baz Kooten Racing, with the top car Cupra and the number 131 ahead of Baporo Motorsport. They were consistently there throughout the race, as were the Autorama team. They've had a great season and win the TCE European Championship in the Hankook 24-hour series. They were your top 3 in TCR. SP3 won by the KTM Crossboard. Not really challenged, to be honest, from early on in the race. And Hoffer Racing by Bonk Motorsport win the A3 category in 9th place in the TCE version of the race. Perfection second in SP3, Synchro second in A3, and then problems for the rest of the team. Munkoff Racing started on pole position, looked like they were out at one stage, but again got out and made sure they turned some laps. Not the weekend that Red Camels Jordan 101 Cooper wanted. They were out early on. Let's go to Shea Adam down in the pit lane with the celebration. Shea, where are you?
Well, I'm in between both of the winning teams, so tell me, go to Antibury first. We just did TCR results, and it really has turned into the Antibury show in terms of TCR. I'll give you a moment to take your helmet off. It was a long stint for Anti, so he's exhausted. You can see the look on his face, but hey, a race win for our champion of the continents from last year here in Europe. Anti, fantastic job. A winner at Barcelona. How does it feel to be a winner again in Creventic?
Yeah, always nice to win. Yeah, super. Team did a good job. Car was perfect. You know, then we get this result.
You guys had the race pretty much the whole way through. We didn't have the close battling, but you couldn't let off at all, could you?
No, not really. We kept the pace on all the time, but the tactics were really safe. We made one extra tire brake change as well, and yeah, kept it safe.
And you helped your co-driver win the TCR championship as well, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks. That goes to Fabi.
Big celebration tonight.
Thank you.
Share down with Anti-Burley there in the pit lane, all this laconic
Going
character.
over to Adrian now, John.
Okay,
Sorry to
thank
cut
you.
in on
No,
you.
no,
I just
do
see
it.
him. I want to grab you before you go up on the top
Adrian
step of the
Amstutz,
podium.
yeah.
Adrian Amstutz. I'll get Dennis in a sec too. But Adrian, major win in Creventic. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We enjoy it. It was a difficult race. It was nail biting. Actually, I do have nails still, but it was cool.
Well, you were biting your nails because you're up against one of the best teams in Creventic, so that makes it even cooler that you got the win.
Yes, of course. They are very good. Their AMs are so top notch, and the car goes very well. The Rinauer brothers are always on point, and the strategies are always on point. I mean, this time it was more or less luck. You know, it could have swung either way. So we take it as a good day for us.
Yeah, but come on, you got to come back. I mean, it's even sweeter of a victory when it's swinging back and forth.
Yes. I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will at a certain point. This is our preparatory race for another series. So we came here as a fun event, but it was much more than that.
That is one hell of a way to prepare.
I'll do that.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's some way to prepare for another race in another series. They have gone, as Shea rightly said, Paul, Barwell and all of their drivers have gone head-to-head with one of the most successful and best organised teams in the history of Creventic racing, and they have prevailed. It went back and forth, but I mean that just makes it sweeter. Let's see what Dennis Lind has to say. He had the message that drivers hate to hear behind the wheel: drive fast but save fuel, and you might win the race.
Well, Dennis, when you got the message, drive fast and save fuel and you might win the race, that's like the worst thing you can hear on the radio, isn't it?
It's a bit contradictory, yes. You know, you don't want to run out of fuel, but you don't want to get caught from behind. But no, the team did an amazing job guiding me on fuel consumption for every lap, target laps, everything. They did a flawless job. So they made it look really easy for me out there. So it was nice.
Not bad for your third 24-hour race, as we were talking about yesterday, about 24 hours ago. Not much experience in these. You like them?
Third time's a lucky one, I guess. Yeah, I like 24-hour races. Barcelona has been a tougher one so far. It's been hot. We had a little bit of rain, but I don't know. It was a bit fake rain, basically. So, no, it was tough, especially the last stint where the body is starting to give up and all the emotions come out while you're driving, and you hear strange noises every time you press the brake pedal, and it sounds like the cylinder out of sync. But no, finally, and not much of a better place for a bull to win in Spain, is it?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, I like that one a lot. The bull wins in Spain, not always the case in these parts, of course. Shea Adam down in the pit lane. Andrew Marriott was there as well. Paul Trustwell and me, John Hindorf, Rob Curry and Tim working back in London. Of course, our colleagues at Nullsweisfei 1. We couldn't do it without you. The European Championship season for the 24-hour Hankook series is over. We've still got the TCR 500 and quarter to come, and we'll be covering those all live for you in sound and vision, RS1 and of course the Vision as well. It's been a cracker in Barcelona. 10.4 seconds after 690 laps. Almost unbelievable. Let's go down to Andrew and Shea to have to... You've got to sum this up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Andrew, how would you sum up this race?
You know, I'm an old guy. I've been around a very long time, but rarely have I seen such a cracking 24-hour race. I've been to over 50 Le Mans, you know, but this was one of the very best. Just one little thought, and I feel a little bit sorry for the Porsche of Herbert, because, remember, they had to spend more time at the pumps. Remember, those 7 times 24 seconds, or 24 times 7 seconds, cost them the race, actually.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Andrew. We weren't sure how all that was going to play out with the fuel pump allocation, the extra time needing to be spent. It wound up giving us a very even race on the track, but as you say, if we didn't have that, Herbert would have run away with it.
It might have been the other way around, but some great innovations down the pit lane as well. You know, we saw the fabulous Crossbow Extra, if we want to call it that. They gave us a lot of fun. We had the Ligier. We had a massive international field. Drivers from all around the world. Absolutely terrific. And then people were having fun as well, weren't they? And a good crowd too. What's not to like?
That's so true, Andrew. When we went off for our night shift, we were just passing hordes of people walking out with Hankook tires. See, when they're done on the cars, the team doesn't need them anymore. The tire company doesn't need them, and the fans get a great souvenir.
No, I want to be the glazier that makes all those tabletops. So going to be the glass pieces are going to go on top of them. They're going to be in a lot of lounges around this part of Spain.
Let's talk a little bit about the championship that wound up today, the European part of Creventic 2019 wrapping up. Scuderia Praha, very quiet race from them.
Well, they didn't quite have the pace, did they? But they were in with the possibility of a top three, and then of course they had that control unit for the turbo have those wires break, and they lost a lot of time, and that was the end of their race at the front. Really unusual. They dominated the European season, so they'll be happy with the year overall.
It's the Porsche that's behind you, Andy, that's the one that really gets my attention, though. GPX Racing. They came in this weekend, Benji Gota making his 24-hour debut.
He's 16 years old, for heaven's sake.
I would have liked to have been driving a Porsche race car at 16, but they wound up on the podium after a really strong run. It was hindered early on.
Yes, it was, and of course they did have their owner in the car, who is actually about 10 seconds off the pace, so that cost them a little bit, but they did. Stuart Hall did a fabulous job again. Stuart Hall always does a great job, and Groger, of course, Jordan Groger, he's a very sound competitor, so very good team. That team actually run from Spain this weekend, so they'll be happy. I'm sure they'll be very pleased with the top three.
Moving on to the second race that took place over this 24-hour period in TCE. It was a TCR car that came home first, may not have gotten a pole position, but Bas Kooten Racing, you can't keep them away from the top step in Creventic, can you, Andy?
They're a very professional team, Bas Kooten, and of course you just interviewed a top driver, Antti Burri. At one stage people thought he was going all the way. He dominated Formula Ford in the UK years ago, and Dan's of course takes his championship away from this. They're a very professional outfit. Yes, good run by them.
It was the third place finish for the Autorama team, but they come away with the team championship, so a good result for them as well.
Absolutely, and of course they've got another race to think about, haven't they? Got this 500 coming up at Spa. I'm sure they're already making all the plans for that right now.
And we do still have another race as the Champion of the Continents continues, the Circuit of the Americas in the second week of November. So there's more fun to be had yet. And that car that's sitting right behind us, the 131 winner today, they were very strong at COTA last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Just talking about COTA and our American team, CP, bit of a disappointment for Charlie Putnam this weekend. The car never seemed to be dialed in properly for some reason, and Charlie lost that Drivers' Championship here, which was a bit of a shame because he's such a strong competitor.
Well, Andrew, we'll let you go up to the podium to get ready. Be careful that you don't get sprayed with any champagne.
I don't think we'll be doing that today.
No, indeed not. Thank you, Shea and Andrew. Andrew referring there to the sad event at Spa yesterday when young Antoine Hubert lost his life in an F2 race, and Creventic making, I think, very sensible provisions to just tone down the podium celebrations here, and all the teams, I'm sure, will understand that. The podium celebrations to come, then the big party for the presentation of the European Championships for the Hankook 24-hour series. I'll just add my thanks personally to Paul Trustwell and to the guys and girls at Nulls Vice 1, as well as all of our pit lane reporters and commentators for the European part of the season. Let's just remind you of some of the highlights. We might as well just play the whole 24 hours again, shall we? Because it was absolutely brilliant all the way through this 24 hours, the Hankook 24 hours of Catalonia at Barcelona. Noon on Saturday, the red lights went out, and basically from that time forward, the race was never cool at all. TCE perhaps getting a little bit more spread out than we're used to seeing, but an outstanding run from all of the cars and drivers. Being most impressed with the driving standards here. A little bit of contact, inevitable, I suppose, particularly when you're fighting for tenths of seconds. The story of the first half of the race was the heat, and then a little bit of dampness caused a little little problem, but after all of that was said and done, nobody used any of the rain tyres that Hankook brought here. Harry Hilders went out early in the 101. That caused a long code 60 when the barrier had to be fixed. Into the darkness hours, always interesting here. A lot of drivers who'd not been here before finding it quite difficult to get used to all of the darkness hours. But that's when the spectators come out. That's when the paddock came to life. And that's when the ingenuity had to come out as well down at Hoffa Racing, as they had to rebuild that venerable number 10 car. I think we've seen that one for the last time. That car likely to be retired at the end of this season. We lost Fricadelli after a couple of punctures, damaged the floor. The little Peugeot had to be rebuilt after an accident with the number 10 car. Few more code 60s during the night, but as soon as we got back to green flag running, it was all on again. The 415, that was the little Cayman, wasn't it, who did such a good job in holding on to the GT4 victory. Got to say that the teams, drivers and mechanics did a super job. It never really got cold overnight. It was warm, it was sticky, and once the sun came up at 7:30 rather, on Sunday morning, it was an opportunity maybe to grab a few Zeds in the back of the pit as the drivers got ready to go again. And the last 4 hours in daylight, absolute barnstormers. Battles through the top positions. Alan James somehow holding on to a huge sideways slide in the synchro car. It wasn't to be their day, with a gearbox problem taking them out of contention. New lap distance record was 677 laps. We clocked 690 this year, so the distance record thoroughly broken. And at the end of the day, despite the trials, the tribulations, the code 60s, we came down to a sprint after the last set of pit stops between Barwell Motorsport and the black, white and red number 91 Herbert car. And it was indeed the black and orange, the black and yellow car, the 77 car. Save fuel, drive fast, Dennis Lind. He did it 10.5 seconds after 690 laps and just over 24 hours. The Creventic race of their whole entity, I think probably, and I think probably Paul Trustwell, the best 24-hour race as a complete event that I have ever witnessed.
Yes, it's so unusual where you said at one point, you know, this is not something that has come together as a result of a set of circumstances towards the end of the race. It was that intensity throughout the race which was present absolutely throughout. So it was excellent to watch, yeah, I mean, you couldn't take your eyes from it, could you?
No, not at all. Paul, thank you very much for not just this race, but all your help throughout the European season. Paul will be with us at Kota as well in November. Let's go down to Andrew Marriott, who's starting the formalities on the podium here for the final round of the European 24-hour Hankook season here at Barcelona.
And all the friends of the driver who died there yesterday, we will not be spraying the champagne. Otherwise, we've got lots of trophies to hand out, we've got lots of happy drivers, and in just a moment, we're going to start our podium ceremonies.
Moltes entregues de premis amb totes les categories. Baixem el volum del meu micro, però el micro de l'altre sí que es tenia de pujar. Hi ha molta diferència de volum en un i a l'altre. Ara sona malament quan parlo jo, que ja no ho hauria de dir. Himnes, banderes, pòdium overall serà el primer i també dins de les categories d'A6 Pro.
the third place finisher overall. And that is, of course, from the United Arab Emirates team, the run from Spain, GPX Racing, here is Jordan Fowler. Stuart Hall, 16-year-old Benji Gotha, and Nicky Pastorelli from Holland. They finish in third place. And we're getting ready for the second team. It was oh so close at the end. What a fabulous race we've had here. And a team that have won here twice in the past. Back in 2017 they won. Back in 2016 they won. But here, the number 91 car of Herbert Motorsport, the Porsche 911 GT3R. Second place then for Herbert Motorsport, Robert Renauer, Ralph Bone, Daniel Alleman, and the Porsche factory driver, Sven Muller. Tremendous effort.
Aquí els teníem el segon equip classificat, aquest número 91 de Herbert Motorsport, l'equip alemán, con Daniel Aleman, Ralf Bone, Robert Renauer y Sven Muller. Y vamos con el vencedor.
And now, let's just pause for a second and then invite onto the stage the team that 3 years ago finished second, but they won it today. Barwell Motorsport, Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. Dennis Lind, Patrick Kajala, Leo Matitsky and Adrian Amstus. The team run from the UK. Look at those race suits, and a Lamborghini wins here for the first time in Spain. A fantastic drive. The national anthem.
Anem a escoltar, doncs, l'himne de Gran Bretanya, un honor a l'equip guanyador, Barwell Motorsport. Ok, enhorabuena para el equipo vencedor Barwell Motorsport con el Lamborghini. Vamos a la entrega de premio Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager Hankook Europa, encargado de entregar el premio a ese tercer equipo clasificado para GPX Racing con Jean-Pierre Valentini, Benjamin Goet, Stuart Hall, Jordan Grogor, Nicky Pastorelli. Juntament també amb el director del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, el senyor Joan Fontseré. Anem doncs amb el senyor Vicenç Aguilera, president del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, i també amb l'alcalde de Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, entregaran el premi al segon equip classificat.
Yes, 2 sets of trophies here for the overall win and, of course, for the category as well, being handed out to the top drivers here. Trophies held aloft and give another big cheer.
Atenció, que només ens queda ja per entregar l'equip guanyador. I de nou, Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager Hankook Europe, encargado de entregar el premio, juntament amb l'alcalde de Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, a l'equip guanyador de Barwell Motorsport.
Plenty of silverware to take home. And another very special trophy coming up in just a moment. More trophies, big smiles on the podium. The Union Jack there in the middle of the 3 flags which are flying on this podium.
Ja, senyores i senyors, anem ara amb la senyora Rosa Bisba, la mare de Fermí Vélez, el nostre recordat Fermí Vélez, amb aquest trofeu especial, trofeu per l'equip, millor equip, l'equip guanyador, Barwell Motorsport. Gràcies a Rosa Bisba, dissenyadora d'aquest trofeu. a l'equip guanyador.
Yes, the trophy there, the special Fermin Velez trophy, presented by his mother, the late Fermin Velez, who won the 1989 Group C2 Championship in a Spice, a great sports car racer who had a lot of success in Spices, and a good friend of mine too. Great to see his mother here presenting that trophy.
Vámonos ahora para la entrega. Volvemos, es el mismo podium en la categoría A6 Pro, por lo tanto vamos a entregar, aprovechando que ya tenemos a estos primeros clasificados, de nuevo Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager de Hankook Europe, encargado de entregar el premio como tercer equipo clasificado, vencedores de las 24 horas de Spa, es el equipo de GPX Racing, y también entrega el señor Josep Pérez Rodríguez, l'alcalde de Montmeló, aquest tercer equip classificat de A6 Pro.
Yeah, these are the A6 Pro trophies as opposed to the overall victory trophies presented by Giulio Rizzo from Hankook. And let's have a quick round of applause for Hankook, who did a most marvellous job here. Excellent tyres from Hankook.
Ahí está también el alcalde de Montmeló entregando este segundo equipo clasificado A6 Pro Gerber Motorsport, y ara el senyor Vicenç Aguilera com a president del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, i el seu director, el senyor Joan Fontsaré, el director del circuit, encarregats d'entregar el premi a l'equip guanyador A6 Pro Barwell Motorsport des de Gran Bretanya.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to sort these trophies out and need a truck to take all these home. They will be filling the trophy cabinet. So I think that's about it for the overall top three. I think that's all their silverware, and what a magnificent sight it makes up here in Barcelona.
Gracias, enhorabuena, congratulations a estos primeros clasificados, guanyadors absoluts i guanyadors de la categoria A6. Continuarem aquest podi ara en l'apartat de TCE més TCR. També, doncs, per tant, doble podi pels següents. Las ampollas de cava, esas botellas de champán que quedan aquí en el podio, ahora tal y como salen, se les van entregando una de nueva a todos los pilotos. Por lo tanto, las botellas que están en el podium son para la fotografía y por lo tanto no habrá celebración de champagne en esta entrega de premios de la 21ª edición de las 24 horas de Barcelona de automovilismo Trofeu Fermin Velez.
Well, just get ready for the next podium, and we're changing pretty well to front-wheel drive in just a moment on the podium here, because coming up will be the trophy presentation overall for the TCE category and of course stroke TCR, and it will be the same top three, so that makes it a little bit easier for me up here, because sometimes it's not always quite like that. And well, Spanish cars finishing first and second in this category. More trophies coming out of the room, the podium room. More silverware. The teams are ready to go. So in third place in TCE and TCR, the number 112 Autorama Motorsport by Wolf Power Racing from Switzerland, Volkswagen Golf. And here are the drivers: Marlon Menden, Ralph Hengeler, Jerome again, Yannick Mettler, and the man who is fastest of all of them, Benji Lauter.
Aquí tenim el tercer equip classificat, un Volkswagen Golf, un GTI, amb el número 112. Atenció, l'equip català a la segona posició, Vaporo Motorsport.
And in the second place, in a Cupra, a Spanish-built car, a Spanish team, Vaporo Motorsport, Jose Manuel Zapag, Marcel Rafael Kiriocci, both from Argentina, Alexander Patrev and Alberto Vescovi. And now the winners, 131 car, Top Car Sport with Bascote Racing, another Cupra. Fabi Dans, Julian Oppenlos, Loris Pratis, and the star from Finland, Antti Murray. Okay.
En honor a l'equip guanyador anem a escoltar l'himne de Suïssa. Enhorabona, doncs, pels
Congratulations, guys. The trophies are coming out. And when you get those trophies, let's have them held nice and high in the air for the photographs. It always makes a better snap. Here we are, more trophies from the TCR lot.
Director Joan Fonsader, els encarregats d'entregar aquests premis.
One Volkswagen, 2 Seats on the podium, and drivers from all around the world.
En representación a Hankook, Europa, y director del circuito de Barcelona, Cataluña.
Teams down there cheering them on. It's been a tough 24 hours. Let's get all the trophies up, please. All the trophies held high, if you will. Oh, more trophies to come. Another set of trophies coming out.
Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager, Hankook, Europa, i juntament amb el director del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, el senyor Joan Fonsader, entreguen els premis a l'equip guanyador. Top Car Sport with Bass Latin Racing, l'equip de Suïssa amb el número 132.
Okay, and gentlemen, trophies in the air, please.
Ahí están Fabián Dans, Julian Apotelos, Loris Prates,
and finally we get all those trophies up there, sparkling in the Spanish sunshine here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. And there even be some more silverware. This is the trophies coming out now, the trophies for the TCR.
Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager, Hankook, juntament amb l'alcalde del Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, entreguen ara, tenen doble premi perquè són els primers de la seva classe TCR. Tercer clasificados de TCR, equipo de Autorama Motorsport, con el Volkswagen Golf GTI, segunda posición de TCR, con el Cupra, número 135 per l'equip de Vaporo, amb el senyor Vicenç Aguilera, president del circuit, juntament amb Giulio Rizzo, entreguen el premi segons de TCR Vaporo Motorsport. I l'alcalde del Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, juntament amb Giulio Rizzo, representació de Hankook Europe, l'encarregat d'entregar el premi primers de TCR Top Car.
I love these trophies, don't you? With the Spanish flag on each of them. They're marvellous trophies being handed out here, and these drivers will cherish these for the rest of their lives, of course. Coming up, we'll have the podium for A6AM. And do we need more trophies in the air?
Últimas fotografías, enhorabuena. Arriba con los trofeos, up the trophies. Vámonos, última foto para el podio.
So that's the trophy presentation for the overall TCR results, and TCE, of course. And the drivers from many different countries: Azerbaijan, Finland, Italy. And just to explain again that we are not spraying champagne today after the tragic circumstances, the accident at Spa in the Formula 2 race yesterday. That's the reason we're not spraying the champagne. I think you'll all agree it's the right thing to do. But we get ready now for A6 AM podium, which is ultra competitive as ever, as these drivers leave the stage, and they'll be heading off for the end of the European season party, I'm sure, where they may also pick up some further trophies, of course. Fabi Dan's here, just leaving, the tall figure who has won a championship. So congratulations to him for that. And he is the last man off our stage, up aloft here in these Formula One pits, this podium where many famous Formula One drivers have stood in the past, of course. Spanish Grand Prix being very much a fixture of the Formula One calendar.
Han vist ja aquests dos primers podis, ens aniríem cap al tercer, de 9, de 8, no sé de quants n'hi ha, per tant, intentarem anar una mica més ràpid. Van entregando esas botellas de cava, de bottles de champagne, también uno por uno. Siguiente de los podiums, categoría A6 AM. A6 AM será el siguiente de los podiums.
So, let's move on to A6 AM, the car which finished third from the German Peter Schmidt-run team, Car Collection Motorsport, the Audi R8, LMS Evo, and our drivers, Jürgen Hari, Takis. There's Jürgen, he's on first. Here's Takis from Greece, Tim Muller, Simon Riker, and their professional driver, Pierre Caffer, who only recently won the Nürburgring 24 hours, did a great job with these amateur drivers, was helping coach them all through the race as well. They are in third place. In second place, the 34 Car Collection Motorsport car. Dr. Johannes Kirchhoff, Gustav Endelhoff, his son Max, Elmer Grimm, and Ingo Vogler in second place. But overall, maybe making up for some of the disappointment, Herbert Motorsport taking this AM class, Edward Lewis Browner, Stefan House, Vincent Cole, Tilso Drimick, and their professional driver, Porsche factory driver, Klaus Bachler.
Ahí estaban esos equipos vencedores. Vámonos con la entrega de premios. Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager, Hankook Europe, encargado juntament doncs, amb el senyor Joan Fontseré, director del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Donen l'enhorabona i entreguen aquestes copes al tercer equip classificat, Audi R8 Car Collection Motorsport. De nou, Giulio Rizzo, en representació Hankook i Europa. Aquests pneumàtics entreguen els premis al segon equip classificat, el segon dels Audis R8 Car Collection Motorsport número 34. Kirchhoff, Edelhoff, Grimm, Vogler, Edelhoff.
Yeah, trophies being held aloft. Max Edelhoff at the front here, the young driver who did a job that was would have been worthy of a professional, actually. Max Edelhoff was a standout driver in this, but also great to have some famous names in this race and particularly Pierre Caffer, who was very much a late entry, brought in by Car Collection at the last moment. Trophies aloft, guys!
Aixecant els trofeus l'equip guanyador Herbert Motorsport, Edward Luis Brana, Stefanos, Klaus Branches, Vincent Kolb i Selko Dermik.
Thanks very much, guys. Congratulations to outstanding German teams filling that podium. So they filter off. And we get ready for photographs being taken here. And again, not quite so many nationalities that time. We've got Austrians and Germans mainly up on that podium as they filter off, and we're going to move on to a very special category here in Creventic, the SPX category. This is X standing for experimental, and we did have some experimental cars here, and we'll get the drivers up in just a moment. We've got a bit of a log jam here of drivers filtering back into the podium room.
Estan entregant les ampolles de cava a tots aquests guanyadors, aquest darrer dels podis. El següent serà la categoria SPX. SPX, següent dels podis.
Okay, we are ready now for the SPX podium. In third place, the Vortex V8. Stefan Cottrell, Philip Gruel, Nick Nobbs, and the man who's twice won this race in the past, has competed in every one of these Barcelona 24s, Francesc Gutierrez. Never driven that car before, and another trophy. Francesc won this race twice. He's had some other podium finishes in the past as well. In second place, Team Klickvers from Germany with the Porsche 991 modified cup car, Robin Chanowski, Kirsten Jadexnis, Stefan Berger, and Maxi Cox. But finally, the winners, and what a crowd favourite this car was, 216 True Racing from Austria with the GTX KTM, a brand new car. And first on is Laura Crayhammer. Come on, Laura, did a magnificent job at the start of the race. Sandy Samini and the two Stock boys, Johannes and Ferdy, did a great job. And congratulations also to Reiter Engineering, who did engineer that car. And we love seeing it with the new Audi 5-cylinder engine. And trophy time, I think, as Hankook hands out more magnificent silverware up here.
Julio Rizzo i Joan Fonsaré, els encarregats d'entregar aquest premi al tercer equip classificat, el de Vortex, amb la presència del nostre pilot català, el Francesc Gutiérrez, que ha participat a les 21 edicions de les 24 hores d'aquí del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Enhorabona, Francesc, un cop més al podi. De nou, Mr. Julio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager Hankook Europe, i l'alcalde de Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, entrega el premi al segon equip classificat amb el Porsche 991 Team Clippers.
Yeah, terrific debut victory there for the KTM Crossbow Extra, or experimental, and they never put a foot wrong there. Excellent result for them.
I el senyor Vicenç Aguilera, president del circuit, i l'alcalde de Montmeló entreguen la Copa Gran a l'equip austríac True Racing KTM.
category at one time or another. And there'll be just a little moment as the drivers filter off the podium here.
Están entregando la botella de cava a la salida del podium, por lo tanto no hay celebración, pero sí que se les entrega esa botella a todos los componentes de todos los podios de les diferents categories. Preparats, doncs, pel següent entrega de premis. Ens anem amb els Porsche. Anem a la categoria del Porsche 991.
So coming up next, as I said, podium for the 991 category, the ever-changing class, but ultimately in third place. From Brittany and France came the Porsche Lorient Racing Team in their Gen 2 991 Cup car. John Francois Savoy, Matthew Fontaine, Pascal Devon, and has been on the podium at Le Mans in the past, and the team owner, Frederick Ansel. Third place for them. In second place, Team Webheads 902, Andy Riedel, Joachim Bolting, the inimitable J.M. Littman and their professional driver from France who did such a brilliant job, brought in the last minute. Tom Dillman, second place for Team Webheads. And the winner of the category, what a great name, the 978 car of from Belgium, Speed Lover, Dominic Bastian, Richard Berberg, Nigel Palmer all the way from Hong Kong, and Xiong Liam Lim all the way from Malaysia.
Ahí estava de Malàcia, Liam Lim. Anem amb l'entrega de premis, un dels guanyadors, i tenim a Giulio Rizzo i Joan Fonsaré, els encarregats d'entregar el premi a aquest tercer equip classificat, Porsche Lorient Racing, l'equip francès. Demorg, Ponte, Gibbon i Frederic Ansel. President del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, senyor Vicenç Aguilera, i l'alcalde de Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, donaran les copes i l'enhorabona. Segona posició, Team Webheads, l'equip alemany, amb el Porsche 991. Riedel, Volting, Littman, Dillman. El senyor Pere Rodríguez, l'alcalde de Montmeló, i el Mr. Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager Hankook Europe, entregan los trofeos. El equipo vencedor, el equipo belga, Speed Lover.
So coming up next will be the SP4 car, or the SP4 podium, but actually it's just the one SP4 car. Congratulations, Darren Littman there from the UK, drivers from France, from Germany, from Malaysia, and just seeing Nigel Palmer here, all the way from Hong Kong. Always. Okay, SP4, still got guys down there to cheer on the SP4 winners. Just the one presentation here for the little and new Ligier JS2R, a car that really caught our hearts. Entered by Nordschleifer Racing, it might sound like a German team, but they're very French indeed. Shalom Romain, Matthew Saintis, Sebastian Detrunier, and Sebastian Poisson.
Ahí está el equipo francés, vencedor en la categoría SP4. Giulio Rizzo i l'alcalde de Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, entregant les copes. Només hi tenim el guanyador de l'apartat SP4.
second place, another German team, another BMW M4 GT4, the Song Racesport car of Olaf Meyer, Bjorn Simon, Stefanet, Torsten Kratz, and for the United States, Simon Tibbett. But the winners in their first ever Creventic race of this GT4, the Orchid Racing Team from Switzerland with their Porsche Cayman, Alex Mottet, Laurent Misbach, Emmanuel Bello, and Massimo Salamanca. And they hop onto the stage, and the rest of the team with the racing team manager as well, I know. So what a great start to Creventic from the Orchid Racing Team from Switzerland. I think they lost one car very early, but the other car has won in GT4. Brilliant result for them. We hope to see them back in Creventic in the future. I'm sure we will.
Giulio Rizzo i Pere Rodríguez, l'alcalde de Montmeló, l'encarregat d'entregar aquests premis al tercer, a l'equip de Hofford Racing, amb el número 50. Passem al segon. De nou, Giulio Rizzo, en representació de Hankook i Europa d'aquests pneumàtics, i també el director del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, el senyor Joan Fonseré, donen l'enhorabona. I aquestes copes al segon equip classificat, l'equip alemany Sort Rennsport, amb un BMW. I el senyor Vicenç Aguilera, president del circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, i Giulio Rizzo, de Hankook Europa, encarregat d'entregar el premi a l'equip guanyador. Porsche Cayman, número 415, Motte, Misbach, Bello, Massimo Salamanca.
Get the trophies high up, please. Everyone, trophies up, please. Trophies up. Well, we've tried. They leave the stage area then, and we'll move on. Last couple of categories coming up now. And next will be SP3. Some final little extra photographs going on here, look. Just delaying us a little bit, some videoing, presumably from the team. Everyone, nearly everyone with their Hankook hats on. And great job from Orchid. Thank you. And out the guys come. Martin Kroll, Thomas Jaeger, the Austrian one, not the German one, that races for Mercedes. And, well, Orchid doing, as it's their very first race here and their first win, doing some pictures with the team members, including their team manager there. That's one for the website, I'm sure. And finally, it's Laurent and Emmanuel who see those drivers off the grid, or off the podium, I should say. And we're going to move on to SP3 here, where we had a very interesting result indeed. And finishing in third place, the 310 car of Munchoff Racing from Holland, the BMW M4, Eric van den Munchoff. Marco Poland, oh, they're just finding their way through. We've got a bit of a jam here. They'll be coming out in a moment. The SP3, here we are now, they're coming. And team lead Eric van den Munchoff. First, Marco Poland, Ted van Vliet. And where is father and son, Marcel and Glenn van Berlo? So we don't see all of them. Oh, here we are. Here's the second place team then. This is the team that came from Denmark with a red and white Ginetta G55. In second place, Perfection Racing Europe and Klaus Klosterman, Tommy Laugerson and Rennie Rasmussen. But the victory in this podium for this SP3 class, the RTR Projects from Czechoslovakia for the Czech Republic with their KTM crossbow, Jan Creventic, Daniel Skalicki, Petra Lisa, Thomas Miniberger, and their star driver, Eric Yanis.
Giulio Rizzo, Motorsport Marketing Manager Hankook Europe, i juntament amb el Joan Fonseré, director del circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, són els encarregats d'entregar els premis. Aquí els tenim. El tercer classificat des d'Holanda, Munhoff Racing, amb el BMW M4. Sobre. L'alcalde de Montmeló i de nou Giulio Rizzo són els encarregats de donar el premi i de felicitar el segon equip classificat, Perfection Racing Europe, des de Dinamarca, amb el Gineta.
Guys, on the podium, can I ask you to hold the trophies up high, please, for the pictures. Hold the trophies up high. Oh, some more trophies coming out here. Goodness me. There's half a jeweler's shop here.
Senyor Vicenç Aguilera, president del circuit, i Pere Rodríguez, alcalde de Montmeló, entreguen el premi als equips guanyadors, els pilots.
There they are, trophies aloft.
Des de la República Txeca.
So, 2 KTM wins. And so they head off back to the celebrations and the parties, and I think those Danes will be having a good time. And I think we've just got the one more class coming up, haven't we? Some quite noisy Danish people down there. The Vikings get a bit carried away sometimes.
Thank you.
Well done. And last but not the least, the podium for the A3, just 2 cars qualified to be on the podium here. And in second place, despite changing an engine, the Synchro Motorsport team from Swindon in the UK with their Honda FK8. Team leader Alan James, Dan Wheeler, and touring car champion from Britain, Matt Neal. He's the tall one in the middle there. Led the class for quite a while, but ultimately got beaten by the 869 Hofer Racing by Bonk Motorsport, BMW M240i Racing Cup car, Martin Kroll, Alex Berghardt, Volker, Pep Meyer, Michael Bonk, and Michael Fisher. Martin Kroll gives us the thumbs up. He's already got 2 Hankook hats on.
Giulio Rizzo entregant els premis.
And so, very busy podium up here. Trophies handed to Alan, who is from Wales.
I ara, president del circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, senyor Vicenç Aguilera, i l'alcalde de Montmeló, el senyor Pere Rodríguez, entregant el premi a l'equip guanyador, l'equip de Hofer Racing, amb el BMW M240. L'equip suís.
Well, there they are. That is about it from up here on what has been a very busy podium at the end of a most fantastic Barcelona 24-hour race here so closely fought to the finish, not only for the overall victory, but in many of the classes as well. And everybody getting their spoils of victory up here. Congratulations, guys. Alan, put your trophy up in the air, mate. There he goes. So we look down on the winning car, which is still in front of the podium, the Lamborghini, which took the overall victory, and tightened it. It was Dennis Lynn, Patrick Kurala, Leo Matitsky, and Adrian Amstus. They were the overall winners. But congratulations to everyone who's been up on the podium today. Great show. And from me, Andrew Marriott, we'll see you next time. Congratulations.
Welcome to the Endurance Racing Series for GT and Touring cars, with the champion of the continent, European Championship, TCR Spa 500 and TCR Middle East. That's 12 races across 3 continents. The best endurance racing experience for everyone. Welcome to the world of endurance. This is endurance.